I'd like to call the
Doing the tax.
I'd like to call the Selectmen's meeting to order for Monday, November 6th. Can we please have a moment of silence for Springland, Texas? Thank you. Could we please stand in honor of America? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business is setting the 2017 tax rate. Diane?
Okay, the printout that I distributed, okay, is the unreserved fund balance at the end of December 31st, 2016, in the amount of $1,494,245. $494,245.
May I have a copy? Is that? Thank you.
And then the rate, if we were to use just 100,000, would be $11.02 currently. And if you were to apply 120,000, it would reduce it by 2 cents, and then so on and so forth.
Any thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, we talked about it on Friday,
Yes.
and our undesignated fund balance right now is $1,494,245. If we were just to use the state recommendations, we've got a total budget of $4,245,000 and some change. So holding 10% in undesignated fund balance would be $424,000. If we went 15%, which I think is a little excessive, but it's $636,000. So I had asked to have this schedule done to give us an idea what sort of moderation we could have to the tax rate, and use some of those funds to give it back to the taxpayers. Because essentially it's unspent budgets that accumulate all that. And it just seems like an awful lot of money to be holding.
Yes.
For the purposes of something. I don't know what the accumulation was initially about. Whether it was trying to accumulate enough in that fund to finance a large purchase, or what the issues were. So,
Yeah.
with this.
State DRA recommends retainage between 5 and 17%.
Every time I've talked to DRA, it's been between 10 and 15. So maybe they've gone up to 25, but...
There's a reason for that.
Okay.
If you read the small print, they figure it two ways. One of them that has the 17 is, correct me if I'm wrong, is appropriation budget. The other one is income and revenue. And one goes, and I was just looking at it, one goes like from 7 to 17, my numbers are wrong, but the other one goes like from 5 to 15. They give us a choice. So, but you're correct. Anything over 10% is.
It's pretty comfortable.
Yes, it is. I asked the question of DRA, why is it we're a little bit high? And they listed off a couple of things that are complimentary about the town. And one of them is the money that Clay Gallagher has saved and the income there. I mean, up until this year, it was over $500,000 since he's been there. So, some other things like the Lang Pond Road project was bid out at 160, came in at 147, and we haven't even spent all of that. So, whether it's good fortune or good management or good leaders or or whatever. It's a nice position to be in. But I do agree with you about using some of these funds.
I mean, we have one of the lowest tax rates in the state.
Yes, we do.
So there's a little bit of movement available in the event of an emergency. But I'm not saying that we should hold the tax rate at the current level. I mean, it's obviously going to go up a little bit. But if we can get into a pattern of making it grow at 3 or 4%, which is the economy growth, it would seem.
Can I ask Bill what your thoughts are, Bill?
Well, it's important that we have some money available in the undesignated fund balance, because that's what helps us pay the bills in between when we're collecting tax revenue. And that undesignated fund balance is going to continue to grow every year if we conservatively estimate revenues from other sources and don't spend every penny that's in the budget, because the whole process we go through in projecting what we're going to spend is takes into account all of the money that's in the budget. So I agree that we need to take the money out of the fund balance and apply it back against the requirements to, if we don't do that, it's just going to grow forever. And but I think that's why it grows. Revenue.
The only way it grows.
Well,
is revenue and underspent budgets.
That's exactly right, and it's a nice problem to have, as opposed to not having enough money to cover the requirements as they come along.
I guess my thought, not to belabor the discussion here, or we can belabor it if you want to, but if we were to put $300,000 against the 2018 budget, that would give us a 3.7% increase in taxes, a tax rate of 1087, so a 40-cent tax growth, and we'd still have $1.2 million plus whatever accumulation happened in 17. So I mean, you have $1.25 million, maybe $1.3 million in undesignated funds. That would be where I would come down on it.
What are your thoughts, Bill?
More than one to talk.
Do we have information about county or school district taxes for this year?
The school rate, the local education is 4.23, and the state education is 2.43.
And have we got any from the county?
And the county would be 1.38.
So,
And with the 100,000 from unreserved fund balance, that leaves right now the municipal rate at 2.98.
I'm ready to make a motion if you gentlemen are.
you can wait just 2 seconds.
Yeah. That's right.
What was the municipal rate again? I'm sorry.
2.98.
So it went up 7 cents.
Yes.
So 73 cents. It's a net increase.
And you're suggesting that we apply $300,000?
That's what I was thinking, yeah. Let's see what it does to the, well, yeah, that's a 3.7% increase. That would be my recommendation. I'll make a motion if you want, you can vote it up or down.
I was gonna make the same motion, but go ahead,
Well,
sir.
So what if we apply $350,000? Which makes that,
You're thinking of moderating the 47 cents of,
right,
right. It still leaves us with over $1.1 million, so I'm happy to go with 250. I'll make a motion that we apply $350,000 of our undesignated fund balance to offset taxes for 2018.
I'll second that. And under discussion, Diane, can you give us what the tax rate would be, municipal, county, excuse me, what the municipal tax rate would be with that figure?
Okay.
'Cause the-
Okay, that would, with 350,000, it would be $273. I mean, $2.73. You're not paying attention.
So that would lower the current tax rate.
Right, but I think what we have to take into account is all the taxes.
Yes,
whether
yes.
local or-
when somebody pays their tax bill,
They're not.
you know, the fact that the town taxes are lower or higher is only a part of what they see. I mean, the tax you pay, when you pay your tax bill, includes what we collect for the county and for the school district, as well as,
Can I borrow your?
Yep. And we don't run excessive uncollected taxes here.
No, we're
very good.
So I want to reducing our undesignated fund balance is going to affect our credit.
Nope.
Not to borrow.
What that would mean is that the new tax rate would be $10.77,
I think it,
correct?
yeah, that's what she had on that chart.
Yes. State education went down from 254 to 243. Local education went up 351 to 423. County went down 147 to 138. And municipal went up from 291 to 298. Excuse me,
Down.
291, it went down to 273. So are we ready to vote on these figures, gentlemen?
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
I'm ready.
You want to stay with the 15,000 for overlay?
Yes, I do.
I'm just bringing it up just to
Yes,
make sure.
that's an
you're
insurance
all-
policy, yes.
Okay.
Would you recommend that?
I talked with Rod Wood, and he said that should be adequate, if one of the utility lawsuits.
Mhm. Yes.
And went to their favor.
That was his
Yeah.
recommendation to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there any further discussion? I'm ready to move the question. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Good job, guys. Diane, thank you for your work. You've
You're
labored
welcome.
long and hard on it.
I don't know whether we've got time this year to talk about it, but did you get a copy of the trust funds RSA?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you don't have it,
Right.
we're not going to be informed enough to talk about it. But basically, it's to establish, take some of the undesignated fund, put it into a designated trust for health insurance, so that if we're faced with explosion in the cost of healthcare, we've got, we're not pushing the tax rate like crazy. We've
Yes.
actually got some money set aside. So I think we're all set for this year, but maybe we should put that on the agenda for next year.
To look at for going forward.
Yeah. I think even if we stay with our current health provider, we're only looking at an 11% increase, so it's not, I mean, it's still 11%, but it's not busting the budget, if you will. But I think it's something we should consider going forward. Thanks.
Sure. Do we need to take a break until 9 o'clock, or can we just get right into our normal business? Any thoughts?
I think we can go forward. You know, you've got appointments for later, but we could always start with some of the other stuff
Sure.
ahead of time.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just go into public input.
I just have a question. So at the $300,000, it was 3.7% increase in taxes?
Right, so it's a little less.
So what is it? Yeah, I know, but do you know that one?
I could
You know that
figure it-
percent?
I could figure it out for you if you want me to.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's see.
And this is the total tax bill, right?
277 divided by 1043, right?
The other way around.
3.26%.
Thank
That's what
you.
I get.
Oh, you beat me. Oh, it's that smartphone, that's what that is.
That'd be good for something, right?
Thank you.
Karen, I don't have a copy of the 10 and 13 minutes, I don't think.
You need the 1013?
Yeah.
350,000, not 300,000.
That's right.
think
At
I have-
300,000,
I don't have a
it was
copy of the agenda.
3.7.
Okay.
At 350,000, it's a 3.26%.
Anything else from the public?
I appreciate you noting why we have so much in our undesignated fund balance. Talking about Clay's a perfect example, and the money he saves us and how all of that works, because sometimes people think it's just,
On that note, have you read his white paper he did a couple of years ago? There are 3 towns south of us that the compensation increases are funded out of recycling
I'd like
income
to.
and whatnot. I'll ask him for a copy of that. No, I haven't followed up and investigated what people think about it. In my tenure as selectman, I've had 5 current or former people from those towns say it's one of the best things they ever went to. It's a little creative, and the bottom line is, what's the difference whether the money goes into a budget or whether it goes
One of the,
as income? But it's an interesting thought, but I'll just let you look at it.
one of the canards that seems to live forever with absolutely no basis in fact is that if you give government money, they're gonna spend every penny of it. If you give a department money, they're gonna spend to the end. At the end of the year, they're gonna take all the money they have left and buy some gadget. If that were actually the case, we wouldn't have any designated fund balance, because the only way you can accumulate money is to underspend budgets and create revenue.
Well, and if we overestimated other revenue sources and spent everything in the budget, then we would diminish the amount in the undesignated fund balance. But the whole system is designed to provide a cushion.
That actually happened in Carroll County when I was
Well,
treasurer.
yeah, right.
Yes.
They overestimated the revenues so that they could balance their budget and spend all their reserve, and that was the end. of it.
Right. And so then they had to borrow to pay bills.
Yeah, and have a special.
we're not gonna let that happen here.
No, no.
We're
So
actually
thank you, that,
fiscally
I just wanted to
conservative
comment
here.
on that. Appreciate it.
Anything else from the public? Okay. Do you guys have minutes?
Yep.
Let's zip down to the minutes.
Yeah.
Let's start with the minutes for Friday, October 13th. Any changes, gentlemen? I have none.
I have none.
I have none. Move approval as presented.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next is Monday, October 16th. I have nothing.
I had just one on page 3, just for clarification.
Page 3?
Page 3, second paragraph, last sentence. Chairman Wood read verbiage into the record in regards to one of the utility court decisions. It isn't a utility court. It's a decision about the utilities, but I think just saying one of the court decisions would be
Yes.
Yeah.
clear enough.
Okay.
So delete utility.
Okay.
I have no problem with that. Anything else?
Move approval as corrected.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0. Next will be Friday, October 20th. I have nothing, John.
Don't have anything.
I'm good.
Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Figured this to be a long meeting.
No, it's not.
Have we already done Friday, October 13th?
You
Yeah.
just did it.
We just did it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the legal budget today?
Yes.
We just got the breakdown. I don't know if that might be something quick we could blast through.
Okay, let's do that. Yes, I got a copy of it.
The budget that we approved was $42,800.
Yes.
And what we had asked the office to provide to us was a breakdown of whose department spent the money. And the breakdown occurred in this sequence. It was $37,700 to executive, $2,500 to planning board, $1,000 to the ZBA, $400 for conservation, and $600 for cemetery, $600 for trustees of the trust fund. And I'd like to have a discussion, I guess, before we make a motion, of whether or not to break these, all of those budgets that I mentioned have a line for legal. And currently, the selectmen are being observed as being the expenders of all the funds.
Mhm.
And while it's a vast majority of the funds, I think it would be informative for the public and maybe a better way to do our bookkeeping to break that down by department.
I think it makes a lot of sense. What do you think?
We already did this.
Did we?
On the 20th. The problem is, am I right, Karen?
Yeah.
The total amount we had was wrong, okay?
Right, the amount
So
for the
we-
first line, you folks
Yeah.
had a too low of a number to make it be a total of 42,800.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So we just
So
need
I
to,
just revisited something we'd already done.
yep, but that's,
I'm old and I forget. That's how it works.
Although, in your presentation to the budget committee, I don't think it has, I don't have a problem with it being broken down this way.
yeah, yeah,
The other thing is, and I think you made the comment at the last meeting, legal fees are not just court cases, suits. They're, getting the easements negotiated, a lot of other things. I have no problem with this format going forward. Do we need a motion?
we need to move for a total of $42,800 for the total legal budget. Is that,
I'll
that-
I'll
that's
second.
right.
In that one line there, the first one, the,
All right,
needs
so,
to be 37,700. You folk, at the
All right.
20th, you guys said 35.
so general legal is 37,700,
Yeah.
and the total budget then would be $42,800.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0. start on signature file. Everyone has read Jack Parsons' folder. It's just normal paperwork. There's no questions I'm aware of.
Was there anything new from Friday? Anything new from Friday?
Not in signature, I don't think. Oh, nothing. So,
On the top of,
I guess that,
go ahead.
we're rushing right along, we got 5 extra minutes. One question I think we really have to look at some point in our lives is we've got a building permit in there for the director of Camp Sentinel, I think.
Yes.
So now we're gonna create another residential property sitting on tax-free land.
Yes.
I'm not certain I'm happy with that. And I think we need to have a discussion about it. We're spending some money on the roads that go into these camps, whether it's Northwood or Sentinel
Yes.
or any of them, to say nothing of the fire and police. So I think it's pushing the envelope of tax exemption a bit far when you start building personal residence. I mean, I think we need to have a sit down and chat about that, because what happens when, okay, then our waterfront director needs a house to live in, our cook staff needs a house to live in. Pretty soon you've got a tax-free commune going at every one of these places. And they'll say I'm being a little bit dramatic about it, but if we need to establish a line beyond which we're not gonna go,
Correct.
that's all.
Do you want this particular item to be put on our next meeting's budget for?
No, I don't think there's any way to stop it. I mean, you can't stop them from using their property for whatever purposes. The question is whether or not it's taxable. And we can wait until the winter to talk about it from that perspective. I mean, I don't think we can bar them from building something. That's
Right.
And I don't think we would want to do that. I just think we need to establish what's taxable, what isn't.
Right. And I think you've stated it well. You're not being adversarial. You're just looking out for the tax dollars.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, I suppose we can really dig down and do a cost analysis on what does it cost
Right.
and present that, but I think we have to be in agreement on the direction we're going. I mean, Chip can decide he doesn't like it, but there's 3 of us here. It's
Yes.
not just me deciding something.
I noticed that under correspondence, there's 2 camps that have given a payment in lieu of taxes, part of the pilot program.
Right, right.
I pulled them out to make sure they were read into the record.
Yeah,
So-
and I think that's admirable. And
Yep.
the unfortunate part is that there are camps that, for whatever bizarre reading of language, have decided that payments in lieu of taxes is somehow a slippery slope towards taxation. In lieu of has a meaning. It's even in Black's Law Dictionary, so.
Sure.
But Boston decides a lot of stuff that
Yes.
people not Tuftonboro, so.
Right.
All right, thanks.
Sure. On the top thing to be signed is the dental coverage and rates. Do we want to wait until we're talking health insurance under continued business, or is dental?
It's separate.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
separate.
Yeah, and I don't think we have a lot of choice. I think Delta's the only game in town.
Right. Have you folks read this?
And do we know how this compares to the current rate?
Diane can give us that info. Want me to call her back in?
Or we can defer that for,
Okay.
to deal with it a little later.
Yep. Okay, next item is Sodom Road Bridge repair design. This repair proposal is to extend the time life of the bridge until it can be replaced. Have you folks read this?
I have.
I have two, and I guess, are we going in that direction on Sodom Road?
It makes sense to me to look into that option.
Get a cost?
To get a cost
Okay.
on fixing the bridge. Don't know what the opportunity for moving forward the state aid bridge program schedule is, but every piece of information we put together, I think, can help us with our case there. And ultimately, whether we live with the reduced capacity on the bridge until whenever the state program comes into account, or we decide to take a different approach and fix it.
We'll need to-
The first step is to get some information about what the cost is going to be.
Total cost, Mr. Chairman? Total is $7,500.
Yeah, and if I may add, that's just for
$7,250.
for them to do the design work.
That's the design
And then
work.
if you folks want them to go out and do the bidding, that's not included in
But
there.
the design work will give us the parameters.
And then you
that we have
can,
to-
yep, exactly, I just wanna make sure. Yep.
Just let me read what was sent to us. Dear Selectmen, I spoke with Chris at HEB. Please see below correspondence as well. He explained that the attached proposal is for $7,250 and is to prepare the engineering plans for a contractor to repair the bridge. It doesn't include what the repair will cost. Those costs would come after a contractor reviewed the plans. If putting the project out to bid is something that the selectmen are interested in, HEB facilitating that can be added to the proposal. This includes the contract preparation, see the email below. He also pointed out that although the town has received preliminary estimates of bridge aid for Sodom Road and Tuftonboro Neck Road for 7/1/04/24 and 7/1/2026 respectively, the state has not yet accepted the town's application for construction and confirming that the funds will be available. In addition to the uncertainty of funding, his opinion is that Sodom Road Bridge likely will not last 10 years until the replacement is estimated to happen. He has also noted that if we had a contractor ready to go with the repair project, it likely could be done as soon as this year. If the project is put out to bid, then he estimates that the repairs could be done in the spring. I have a couple of thoughts. During this last storm, due to a couple overwhelming events, Sodom Road was blocked off for an extra number of days. And that is one of our busiest commuter roads. Fortunately, the fire truck could come in from one side or the other side, so it wasn't an extreme danger as far as public safety. But boy, this office here has heard a lot of calls. When is Sodom Road going to be open? The other thing that's frustrating is the state of New Hampshire, and I'm going to go back to the last two bridge projects we had. When they get involved, there's a whole lot of snafus. I'm talking about County Road Bridge, and I'm talking about New Road. New Road, for example, they did it on a cost-plus basis. The state was 3 years late, and it cost the town another $35,000. If we can control our destiny and educate the public, let them decide to repair the bridge. So I'm in favor of this proposal. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we engage HEB to do design work to repair the Sodom Road Bridge.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Is there anything for me to sign on this document? I don't see anything red.
You know, I don't,
Yeah, this is
I
what
think
it
see it
says.
as anything.
No?
On the left of the paperwork?
Okay.
Okay.
Which budget does this come out of?
That's what that was what I was gonna ask you.
It's gotta come out of roads
It's gotta
and
come out of
bridges?
roads and bridges, yeah.
When is this gonna happen?
We would expect to start our service promptly after the receipt of this proposal.
So, do we wanna work it into 2017, or do we wanna make it part of 2018?
My recommendation is we go forward and do it now.
Okay,
It should be charged against
roads and
the
bridges.
roads and bridges budget, there are other lines in the total budget that are
We do have enough funds in the total town
in
budget
the
to
general
cover
budget.
this.
That's
Right.
right. Exactly.
But I would be putting it in roads and bridges because that's an accounting statement for next year's budget.
Well, it's an accounting statement for where we spend money.
Yes.
So regardless of what line item money was originally budgeted in, we ought to charge it to where the cost actually
Right.
goes.
So we've got not that much left in that. And we'll just move some money around.
Okay. We're all set on this, gentlemen? We've signed it?
Excuse me, do you want them to take into consideration that they would put it out to bid with, or do you want to talk about that later?
I think
Just
we
in
need,
case he asks.
Let's look at the design first,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then we can go forward from there.
Okay.
All right, here's-
they should be able to estimate the cost a bit. They've done enough bridges,
Yes.
just a round figure of what we're looking at, whether it's $1 or $1 million.
Okay.
Next, all set on this item?
Yep.
Next item is Rod Wood gave his input and marked his selections. If in agreement, please place the ballot inside the envelope and have me seal. This is the nomination for assessing officials ballot. Did you folks read it? Do you agree with what he recommended? Okay.
Having served in both of the forms of the positions of government, as a selectman and county commissioner, I've never met a county assessor. So I'm wondering what they do, and do we pay them?
There's no funds.
A volunteer job doing something. Right. I guess it's something to put on your own bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Next is a letter drafted reference 19 Mile Bay, the signs. This letter is a follow-up to Chief Shigori's communication with you regarding no parking along Route 109 in Tuftonboro. It's the area of Union Wharf Road as you head back toward Melvin Village. Okay to send this letter to him?
Thank you.
Next is notice of intent to excavate, and this is a supplemental change. It's for tax map 55-2-7. Folks read it? Do we have to take a vote on this?
Probably should.
Yeah, go ahead, move approval.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Next is right of burial. I need a motion to move to approve the 6 rights of burials for Lot G, 42 and 43, G, 46 and 47, G, 44 and 45, H, 40 and 41, G, 40 and 41, CR 8-12, and 9-12. So move.
Is that up?
Hmm?
Sounds like a lot more burial sites than there are
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
There's one in here that you missed, Lloyd.
Okay. The next thing to be signed is from Lakes Region Household Hazardous Product Collection Program for the summer of 2018. Excuse me. This is a letter of commitment. The community of Tuftonboro hereby commits to participate and cooperate with the Lakes Region Planning Commission in the Household Hazardous Product Collection Program to be held on July 28th and August 4th, 2018. We hereby give the Lakes Region Planning Commission the authority to represent us in organizing said collection project. The community of Tuftonboro will appropriate $3,899 for the purpose of this collection program, pending approval of its budget at 2018 town meeting. We've checked with Clay. This is covered by our budget, and he recommends signing it. When I asked him about it this weekend, he said, you know, the program this summer was excellent. Carrie Long headed it up for him. Is there a motion?
One question, well, I'll move in the, move approval.
I'll second.
For purposes of discussion, go ahead.
What was our, what was the budget amount for 2017 for this program? I mean, I recall that
3.5% less,
this is 3.5% more.
3.5% increase.
And what we paid to Lakes Region for the program was substantially better than what we've been doing, as I recall, in
Yes, it was well over $1,000 less, and I'm talking from memory here, from going to Wolfboro.
Yeah.
We didn't have to do the tickets and people come in and all that. What was interesting is, and there's paperwork under correspondence, people can still go to Wolfboro and they pay cash.
Right.
Pay cash. And I think there were about 25 people from Tuftonboro that did it that way. So what this has done is, I think there are 6 or 7 days now where you can get your paint and your bad stuff. It's not going in the environment.
Right.
So what was the number again?
So it's 3.5% increase over 2017, but that was about $1,000 less than we paid the previous year in the Alton
Because we had
Wolfboro.
$4,000 on the line item this year.
Yeah.
Right.
And what do we-
$38.99,
So
so
is it-
it's just,
And what does
just
Clay
under-
have on there in his estimated budget or his approved budget, the budget that we?
I'd have to pull I believe he has 4,000 in his budget.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Ready to vote?
Yeah.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Dental, we want to talk about later.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure, Karen, you remind us.
Okay.
Is Highway Department here?
I just tried calling, I'll go back and see if that name is back.
Did they provide a proposed budget or they bring it with them? Because I don't remember having a.
Yeah, he gave us a proposed budget.
I have to really-
I've got the detail from this year, I don't have his
Yeah, I didn't think I saw a
proposed budget.
That's an insurance.
Well, while we're waiting for him, I can zip down to correspondence in the green folder. This is, the first item is the planning board budget. Have we already done the planning board budget?
You're not,
I don't think we have that.
Okay, this is from Leanne Hendrickson. So we need to talk about this at some point, right?
right?
Next is the culvert survey. We want to talk about that when Jim is here. This is from White Horse Addiction Center. I'm sure they're going to ask for some funds for budget purposes.
Right.
Next is CIP submissions made on behalf of the board by Bill. Next is the Libby Museum of Natural History, talking about a proposal to make like a park area.
Pardon? I thought you said something.
The Conservation Commission will be meeting with the director. They're doing the legwork for us.
And as I recall, that letter is clarification that what they're seeking is minimal improvement to the site to retain the natural character with improved access for a walking trail out to the viewing point of the Ospey Mountains, and removal of some of the invasive plant material to improve the viewing of the mountains. So we talked about this earlier when the first package came in from the Libby, and my idea at that time is we were looking to turn it into sort of a regular park, and I think this clarification is suggesting they're seeking that it be that the improvements be minimal, but designed to bring the use of that parcel in line with the terms of the trust for access of the public. So that it doesn't just become what it has been, which is a totally unused parcel.
It's to honor Dr. Libby's desire for views of the Ossipee Range, a modest amount of clearing of invasive species, about 15 to 20 feet, at the viewpoint is proposed. The path's use will be primarily for educational and conservation purposes. No parking, picnicking, boating, or swimming is proposed. And it's a work in progress. Next is a letter from Lindy Greenwood. I'm writing to request permission to place a plaque by the Christmas tree on the side of the townhouse to designate why the tree was planted there 24 years ago. It was planted in memory of my husband, Lionel Bud Greenwood. I'm not sure if my daughter-in-law, Lisa Greenwood, got permission at that time or not. I would appreciate your attention too, and thank you for considering this matter. I did some research on it. Jackie helped me out. It was planted about 24 years ago when Bud passed away. At that time, the selectmen, from my check of the records, preferred not to put markers in the lawns that affected the mowing. I think that has since changed, because when Potter Campbell passed away, there was permission to plant a tree out here with something. I have a thought, but what do you people think?
It strikes me as it's not inappropriate to have a marker that calls attention to the, why the tree is there. So I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, the selectmen at the time made the decision to have the tree planted or allow it to be planted. I don't think the marker changes anything other than satisfies the needs of the descendants.
Would you consider having the marker affixed to the fence that's right there next to the tree? That way it doesn't interfere with mowing? Or is that a minor point?
I think that's a minor point, what I would envision as an interference to the mowing is that maybe instead of getting real close with the mower, he's now got to use the string trimmer for a little more. So I think, freestanding markers, that's fine with me. Which tree is it? that we're talking about?
I was under the belief it was the fir tree that's out by
The one by the
Yes,
corner of
I can
the
double
gardens?
check.
Yeah, well, the letter mentions townhouse, but I assumed that she was
So
actually
do we want
speaking
to
of the town
review this
offices.
sign? I mean, do we want to take a look at it before? I mean, I think probably not to, beat this dead horse to further death. We're gonna be responsible, or the selectmen are gonna be responsible for maintaining it at some juncture. I mean, it becomes now a town memorial. So are we gonna require some permanency to the sign, or is it a wooden plaque with painted letters?
Well, what she's asking is permission to place a sign.
Mhm.
In my view, if we say it's fine to place a sign there, that doesn't mean that we're accepting responsibility for maintaining the sign.
Oh,
No, I'm not trying to split hairs here, but, yeah, we're gonna work around the sign, we're not gonna tear it down.
my question is just whether or not we should have requirements about the sign. It should be a cast sign, should it be metal, should it be wood, but, I mean, what do we? It's not the biggest issue before us today, but I suppose we don't want it to come back and bite our collective butts.
What about that we give tentative approval, will you please contact us about the particulars?
Sure. Makes sense.
Okay,
Yeah,
so moved.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You contacted Karen?
Yes,
Okay.
and, as far as highway, I understand, I just talked to Jim, we had a miscommunication, because we thought his budget wasn't received by email. Anyway, long story short, he'll be in on Monday, it was nobody's
Today's
fault, it was
Monday.
just, next week, just a miscommunication on which day. And so I talked to Andy, he's be ready in a few minutes, and Diane's ready for health insurance if you wanna do that, so.
Okay.
What do you want to do, gentlemen?
Well, I'm sure that she's busy doing something, we might as well finish what we're up to. and then-
Yeah.
Okay. Tony stopped by the office to request appointment to the planning board, as he was told there will be an opening soon. Dear Selectmen, please reappoint me to the planning board, Tony Triola. Is there a vacancy?
Not currently.
Do we have alternates?
Huh? We do have alternates. We could appoint him as an alternate. But there is not currently a vacant seat on the planning board. So,
Is there and I'm not familiar at all with the history, is there a reason why, given the past 3 months of activity, that we should consider not appointing him?
no.
Okay.
I know he had a conversation with me, and he was civil and appropriate. I have no problem with someone who has a different opinion than me, but they're pleasant, and you have a cup of coffee together, I respect
So at that
that.
point, it's up to the
Yeah, to make a
planning board
recommendation.
chair to
To recommend.
recommend the person to us.
Exactly.
Next is Gina Lassard, Eagle Scout Projects. Please find attached letters from Matt Joss and Cole Finneran. They are Tuftonboro residents who would like to do their Eagle Scout projects in town. I asked them to write letters to you. They are involved in sports, and it would be difficult for them to make a meeting. I've spoken to them about proposed projects, and would be happy to speak to you about them on their behalf if you need more information. Please let me know if the boys have the go-ahead with these projects, so they may begin the process of submitting it to their troop. Thank you, Gina Lassard. Have you read the letters?
It's, we're talking about trail building and trail improvement, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is similar to what other scouts have done in the past. What are your thoughts? I have no problem with it.
I don't either, but I just to editorialize a little bit, part of the Eagle Scout process is actually the public presentation and request. So I think I'm missing out on not coming before us with their request. I'm not trying to
No?
keep them from doing it. I think it's an
Yes.
honorable thing to do, but I think part of it is
I thought that also, but
coming before the board and making a presentation as part of it. Maybe when they're done, they'll come and present their
maybe
results.
pictures before and after or something like that. Do we need a motion on this to give them permission?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? And if, you know, I have no problem adjusting our meeting times to accommodate them, so.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next is disaster response and recovery reminders from, I assume it's FEMA. Hope all those that were impacted by the storm on Sunday are doing well. This reminder, if you need assistance in damage assessment or help with the FEMA paperwork, give us a call. Adam was asked about it. He's not going to submit anything for this past storm.
I will make a comment on that. Of course, I was away during the storm, but I received an email from the state asking that any individuals who had damage in this storm provide them with information on the damage so they can include it in a state submission against a potential federal declaration. So I thought that was interesting, an interesting approach going forward. So I don't know how many residents in town here had storm damage that incurred any real mitigation expense, but the state is interested in getting that information from individual residents as well as from municipal governments.
And Adam would know that. I mean, a tree falls on a house, the fire department gets
Yes.
involved.
Yeah.
Maybe make a copy of that email and forward to our road agent who was busy. And I think the fire department responded to 38 incidents, but that's off the top of my head, and that's not accurate to be recorded. Obviously, we're busy. Next correspondence is from the Health Trust. Your Voice Matters. This is the nominating committee. The slate of nominees: Russell Dean from Exeter, Adam Steele from Amherst School District, and Brian Rapp, Fire Lieutenant in Claremont. Do we support that roster, or is it a moot point?
So this is
Are we even going to be in health trust going forward? I guess we haven't decided that yet.
yeah,
Correct.
no, we haven't.
I thought it was
So
premature.
this is just a notice of nomination slate, and the voting takes place at the annual meeting.
Yep. Okay. Here they are. Camp Sentinel sent the following letter. Central Ministries has served the community since 1949 and was established for charitable and spiritual purposes. Our purpose is to create a welcoming environment. We are compelled to perform this purpose through providing an environment for people to grow personally, spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. We are open to all, and we exist to offer the mission to all. We strive never to turn someone away for inability to pay. Our property being used directly for our mission and purpose benefits the general public. Some examples include 50% program scholarship to Tuftonboro, Ossipee, and Wolfboro residents, hosting at no charge Tuftonboro Historical Society, Fire Department, New Hampshire Carroll County 4-H, New Hampshire Homeschool Group, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Danville Pond Trust Lakes Conservancy, and others. We do hiking trails, ice fishing, and snowshoeing trails for the community. We provide summer seasonal employment for young adults. Spiritual respite for pastors and ministry leaders in church services during the summer. We see our relationship with the town as important. Included, please find a check for $2,000 for the town. If we can ever host a town event or do anything to help build a strong Tuftonboro community, please let me know. Reverend Kevin Van Brunt, Executive Director. Second one, Dear Board of Selectmen, enclosed is a donation check of the YMCA Camp Belknap sent annually to the town of Tuftonboro in gratitude and appreciation for our relationship with the town. Camp Belknap just celebrated its 114th year as a member of the community and has enjoyed a wonderful relationship with the town of Tuftonboro over the past century. Camp Belknap remains a non-profit 501c3 organization to serve children by developing them in spirit, mind, and body. The camp remains strong as an organization in carrying out their mission. This summer, more than 70 young boys from New Hampshire and 8 Tuftonboro residents were able to experience a summer at Camp Belknap through full tuition scholarships. Additionally, we continue to provide the Belknap site to local groups for no cost. Attached to this letter, we've outlined some of the opportunities we provided for the local community in 2017. We also employ 10 residents. As co-directors, we are excited to continue to stay involved in our community. We thank you for the positive relationship over the years with the police and fire department and you town officials. Please accept this donation of $3,200 for those services and effort. Respectfully, Seth and Stephanie Cassels, co-directors. And on the next page is a list of about a dozen charitable items that they've done. Why don't we shift gears? Hi Chief, how are you?
Hey.
Before we get into budgets, a couple of positive things I want to share with you. First of all, we attended the IACP conference in Philadelphia. I see that, is this accurate that you took courses on preying on the elderly,
Yep.
fraud practices, effects of body worn?
Is that what you're doing out in the streets of Philadelphia, preying on the elderly?
It's more worried about being part of the food chain.
Effects of body-worn cameras,
That was the Washington DC site, it was pretty interesting, yeah.
marijuana madness, what every chief should know.
What is
Autonomous
that again?
marijuana madness, what every chief should know.
Oh, right. Yeah, reefer madness. Jesus.
What it had to do with is actually, there were two presenters. One's Eric Daigle, who's an attorney from Connecticut, talking about legalization is going to come, so prepare yourself and prepare your agency with policies, procedures. And the other person was a legalization compliance who works with regulated industry. He was pro-marijuana, so he was talking about where it's going. So it wasn't, I called it madness, out of reefer madness kind of idea, but it was more along the lines of what you need to do as it rolls along, because it's going to happen, is basically their theory.
Yeah.
Autonomous vehicles, law enforcement issues and preparedness.
Because there's a bill in the legislature now about them, so I thought I'd kind of understand what that's about.
Law enforcement risks 2017, what's the real problem lying in wait? Obviously, you listen to the news Sunday. Brains biased decision making and sudden and violent death of an officer at a small police department, lessons in task force policing.
Yeah. Because their definition of a small police department is under 50, which is...
We definitely fit within that.
Well, it was interesting. It was in upstate New York, and they had the suspects all came from Philadelphia, so they involved a task force that also had to cross state lines and how they did that. But it's kind of interesting. And an application to some of the task force issues going around the state. But there were a couple others I went to. There was one on promoting yourself using the public, but it was directed towards foundations. That's why it was checked off, because I went in and then I realized there really wasn't it's directed towards law enforcement foundation fundraising. So I didn't find out till after I got checked into it, so that's why I went to the
And
one.
the body cam discussion was pro or con?
Neither.
Just
It was
both ways?
largely about Washington DC did a study that just came out in October. And what they did is, unlike a lot of places that just did them and then said, look, we had a change, they actually did it as they had patrol officers and officers with cameras. So they randomly took 2,000 officers and assigned 1,000 to having cams, 1,000 without having the body cams, and then they could directly compare, and they ran them around the city. It was not, so it was actually more, it was kind of boring because it was talked a lot about the science of how you do controlled experiments, but it was interesting because it had just come out saying there was no difference in the number of complaints of use of force, and there was no difference in the in the citizen complaints. They didn't see a difference. Whereas other places have done it, they've assigned them to people and said, okay, we had a drop. But what they're saying,
Those are only a couple of the elements, though. I mean, were there any differences in
the positive was that it made IA investigations much easier. And there was the possibility that what if an officer showed up that had a camera at a scene with an officer that didn't have a camera, would that influence the officer without the camera, their behaviors, because they knew another officer had a camera there. So they had to kind of caution that, but they didn't see that, they were surprised, and a lot of people were surprised that they didn't see some of the changes that other places had seen. But the other places had done it, just everybody gets one, so you don't know if it was just a change in 2016 versus 2015 activity. The theory of doing it, but the way Washington DC did it, it was, the same people going to the same kinds of calls, same districts. But they did see, they're still positive in that it was easier to, IAs were able to be cleared faster. If they had an officer-involved shooting, they could clear it faster, and they could also show it from the perspective of the officer. So there was positives, it wasn't negative, but they didn't see the results at other places that they expected to see. That was kind of interesting. It was interesting, I was there, the chief from Lebanon, New Hampshire was there, and the colonel, New Hampshire State Police, because they're obviously both, I think Lebanon already has the cameras, and state police are looking at them because there's legislation to make them that's been promoted in the past, and it's probably going to happen at some point. So it's positive. And I'm in favor of them, but I think the technology, there's costs to it that don't always get the storage. That's the huge thing.
Right.
Yeah, one company will just about give you the cameras, but you got to use it as storage.
Oh, excuse me, yeah.
And that's how,
Give away the blades and.
No, give away the razor
Give
and
away
sell
the
you the
razor
blades.
and sell you the blades.
Oh, yeah.
And at ICP, there were a lot of people selling data storage. That's a huge thing. With all these cameras, you're talking, terabytes of data that have to be stored somewhere, and you have to have access, and it has to be CGIS compliant and all that. So there were a fair number of people, vendors, just on data storage. That's a huge issue in the cloud. But
Well, not to mention the hardware issue. I mean, anecdotally, listening to you talk about some of the issues we have with the cruiser cams, right? So, is it going to be any different with a body cam? In terms of,
time to keep it running.
Yes,
Dealing with it does happen, but it's cost wise, and also there's issues with right to know, discovery, and redacting, time to redact. I did talk, one vendor was showing their system on how to do it, but still, when you redact it, you have to circle like a face and say, I want this face redacted, or this plate redacted, and then it takes time to actually complete that process.
The problem I would think is that we're a small town, if we're resistant, don't budget for it, we're going to ultimately get to the point where it's going to be an issue when you prosecute. So if everybody else in the world has got cameras and we don't, defense is going to say, well, obviously they're trying to hide something.
Yeah.
Or obviously, now it's your word against the defendant's word. which is gonna get more and more tenuous, I think, as the
Yes,
forward.
definitely.
Yeah. What towns in Carroll County are currently using body cams? I mean, are there many?
Marlboro, Sandwich, and I'm not sure Jackson was, because they used to have the Taser made one that went right into on their battery pack.
Mhm.
Or what do they call it? They have some fancy name for it. It's battery pack. And Jackson had that. I don't know if they still do or not. Marlboro has it. They only use it as part of a car stop, though, under the video exception under car stops. Sandwich has them. I'm not sure if they use them fully under the new body cam. The law was changed a couple years ago for body cams because of the issues of right to privacy, right to, you know, I go into your house and I have a body cam going, and somebody wants to see what the inside of your house is, can they 91A request a copy of that video? Same issues that had to be worked out. I haven't, there's gonna be a presentation at the New Hampshire Municipal Association conference on that. I know a couple of the chiefs are gonna be talking about it, their experiences. And there's other issues too, like if I'm looking over here at something and my camera's pointed over here, and it shows something, could the claim be that I should have seen what was over here, but
Well,
my
more
head...
importantly, if you go to get a search warrant from a judge, you're gonna be specific about what you're looking for.
Right.
And if you got a camera on board, all of a sudden you're gonna show the camera footage to somebody and get another warrant.
Yeah,
And that really starts bumping up against the law,
yeah.
so.
It's interesting because there's arguments, different angle of view of the camera, because
Right.
they can see things wider, they can make the lens wider than your eyes can see, and you get the argument of you should have seen this over here when your eye couldn't see that over there. And then they have some that go on camera on your glasses, if you wear glasses, so that it's theoretically looking where your head is, because that's what you're seeing. You're not necessarily seeing over there. There's issues, should you have infrared illumination on them? Well, your eyes don't work in infrared, so should you do that? You can show things that the officer couldn't see, which is critical in a use of force case, especially lethal use of force, because, oh, clearly see you dropped the knife. Well, could you see that if it's dark and you don't have infrared? You know, and there's arguments as to whether or not officers should review the video.
And that goes both ways. I mean, it looked like a gun,
Yeah,
but had you had infrared vision, you'd realize that it was a window cleaner.
right.
So-
But that's the problem. If you have an infrared camera, it will clearly, might define it better than what your eyes actually saw. And you're actually, under Graham versus Connor, supposed to be what the officer felt at that moment. That's also the argument of not letting them review reports review video before writing reports. There's two sides to that. But it was interesting. It was not negative to cameras. It did show the value from an IA, because you can just quickly pull a video and say, and I've heard that from quite a few places, that people come in and make, somebody was rude to my son at this car stop. Well, let's watch this. It's car videos, for example. And usually, they come back with a different perspective, and you see real quick as to what's going on. So, it was interesting.
I also wanted to pass on two other things. Certificate of training for Carl Cook, forensic crime scene. That comes in valuable. The other thing is, give this to the reporter, please. On October 16th, I attended the 20th annual New Futures Luncheon in Concord, New Hampshire, that honored various professionals that have made a difference in their volunteer work aimed at improving the health and the welfare and wellness of all New Hampshire residents. Chief Shigori was awarded the Nick Halius Law Enforcement Award for his outstanding work in the substance misuse policy. The annual meeting for this award will be held November 9th at 4:30 in Concord. Chief, I knew Nick Halius, and was a friend of mine, and congratulations.
Thank you.
We're proud of you. shift to budgets.
We don't usually see this.
It's a nice write-up about you.
I don't like hats.
There it is, there you go.
Yep.
Let's start in on your budget, okay?
Pretty sharp, Andy.
Thanks.
Go ahead, sir.
Um, So, based upon preliminary discussions, well, obviously, the vast majority, 86% of my budget is salary related or tied in with that. So I based it upon what was earlier said is we should look at. Only other change to that was I did look towards increase the on-call rate for the officers to $4 an hour for the time they're on call. Right now, we're at 3. I want to bump it up another $1. It's in line with what other places are doing. I know Holderness and I believe Center Harbor have rates that are more than ours. Fuel, I did a slight increase. The reason I did a slight increase on that, you don't know what that's going to do. I mean, we're down this year. It also seemed like we, for some reason, I think a month wasn't. I looked at the fuel printout. It looked like a month or something was missing, so I'm a little nervous about that low number. I know it dropped, but I was just nervous about our.
It should be $2,000 less, right? Is that what you're saying? I mean, if you're budgeting $6,000 a year, then it's $500 a month. You should only have $1,000 left in that budget.
Right, I have $2,000 left.
Yeah.
I have theoretically 2 months left. So that would be about $1,200
So are you getting your fuel from,
here.
okay, you don't go to like the barracks or anything else?
No.
Crazy stuff.
I don't think we'd save any money going to the barracks, because the way the state police, the state buys their fuel, they get like a 2-year contract for so many gallons and last I knew, it was up here and
Yeah.
what they were paying for it, and it was because they get tied in until those gallons are gone throughout the state. There is one other option that might save us some money, and that would be what's called Wix. It's a card, a credit card, where we could go to any gas station. Probably not a gas station in town, but if we go outside, they automatically deduct the tax out of our cost. I know a lot of places do it just to have as a backup anyways, and I think some places have done that, gone away from the town pumps and done that. Obviously, problem here, we don't have a pump in town, but it cuts the tax right out of it. And
Excuse me, I
yeah.
apologize for interrupting. Karen, could you ask Diane, please, to run off, I don't have
The history.
in my packet, the history of all
Oh,
these
yeah,
things.
sure.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
apologize, Chief, for interrupting.
Actually, I can give, would you like mine? And then I can just follow along.
Why don't you make copies so we have
Yeah.
copies? Okay?
You have, you don't have everything, right?
No,
Nope.
no, we don't have the history. All we have is current.
The other thing is, my second page has an X through it. What does that mean?
Well, see what she was gonna give current year expenditures through last Thursday, and that's the why, but then
Oh, okay,
it didn't get done,
That's not
so.
mine.
okay.
Okay, I will be back.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
Go ahead, Chief.
So that's one option, and that some places have seen it cheaper because, well, we get medium grade fuel here delivered, because that's what we can get delivered. Obviously, it'd be cheaper to get regular to some degree, but we also get it without the tax, but we have to pay shipping. I don't know that it'd be cheaper per se, but some places have gone to this Wix card to.
So, but you could do both, right? You
You
could
could
have
do
a
both.
Wix card
Yeah.
as well as having the town pump.
Yes,
Do they sell gasoline at the state shed, or is that only diesel?
that's diesel at the state shed here.
Okay. Some
And I think they were
stations have
up recently. They're waiting for a delivery too, so I don't, that was an issue for Adam.
No,
but-
the generator wasn't working.
Oh, is that what it was?
During the
We
power
have-
outage.
I mean, we don't have pumps in town, but we certainly, I mean, Scully's is.
Right, Skelly's isn't that far, or
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven or Ossipee over to Irving or something.
Yeah, so.
It might be something to
Makes
look
sense
at.
to me that we would at least have the Wix card as a
Backup.
backup.
It probably does make sense, especially when we had no power, it became we had to call the fire department down to run a generator to get fuel. It might be a good backup. Anyway, that's why I put it up a little bit, because I just was nervous that we missed a month. Earlier in the year, looking at the history, it seemed like 1 month, for some reason seemed, we got like one bill for 2 months or something. It just seemed low to me, so I was just being cautious on it. And you don't know what fuel's gonna do.
Excuse me for interrupting this time. Is it just the 5-year history that you folks
Right.
wanted? Okay, all right, just want to make sure.
I
Thank
could
you.
have a
She's doing that
copy,
right
too.
now. Pardon?
If I can have a copy.
Okay, sure.
Overtime, I dropped it and I took the grant money out. I don't know that we're gonna be doing that next year, so, and if we do, we'll just work it in. We'll just work it in.
We have no holiday pay extended so far?
No, it's we pay in December,
Oh, we paid all at once?
all at once, yeah. So we have accrued holidays.
Yeah.
And that question comes up every year, doesn't it, right?
And
Yeah.
so we've accrued it, and it should be exactly what was budgeted, so. Uniforms, we still have another order, yep.
Last year, what did we spend on overtime, and what did we spend on the $3 an hour on call?
Well, that's coming. She's
I-
making the 5-year.
To be honest, I don't know that it's split out separate, the $3 per hour on call versus the,
It leads to another question, though.
Yeah.
that's not, it's all part of the officer's salary line.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you want one? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. How difficult would it be for you to get that information?
Not too hard, I mean, it'd take me a little bit of time, but I'd have to go through every,
Later on, I'll ask why.
I'd have to go and do I'd probably have to go through every timesheet to do it. So, for every weekly timesheet, but I have them, so.
So, are we moving on?
Go ahead.
Uniforms, is there some reason why we're,
We still have another order to go. And
but
then-
historically, I mean,
We were
14,
lower.
15, and 16, you were at 45, 97, 12, 90, 19, 23. And now we're up in the, you're asking for $3,200.
Yeah.
Are we replacing uniforms or bringing people on? What's going on?
We'll be replacing more next year. I think $800 an officer is not, unreasonable expectation each year. I've gone by cheaper, but I've also had,
Well, why were you at 6 last year? I guess we'll start there.
we did the dress uniforms and we did some other uniform changes.
Okay.
But it was a one-time deal, so I cut it back. And I got those cheaper than I thought I'd get them, that's why the price was less. But we do have another order going in, I'm supposed to put it soon, which will probably be, I expect it to be probably about $2,000 when it's all said and done. We get our winter uniforms, and we have to replace some belts and stuff.
So, I guess I'll keep going. The new equipment, you're talking about your long guns, is that what
I
you're
did,
saying?
and I budgeted in there, actually can, put 4,400, but I think, and I put in there possible trade-in of old ones will offset some of the cost. I actually think that most of it would disappear with the trade-ins.
So most of the hard cost on that line of 12,700 is $5,000.
For the computer and server and the sign, which interestingly enough, when I was at ICP, as one of the vendors I hit was everybody that had signs. And I think I found one that was cheaper that would do the same thing by a bunch.
So
I'm sorry, the sign we currently have doesn't work?
Actually, it's supposedly working now. I have to get it out in a sunny day to make sure. I paid, no, this is a sign that would be, you bolt up on like a speed sign below it.
Oh,
Right on the post.
Right on the post, it attaches to a post, or it can attach it to a telephone pole or
like
a
at
tree.
the school or something.
when the blue light comes on, you know you won.
Like Marlboro has it, and Center Harbor has them that they go on the
And
post.
Meredith has it, and, yeah. there are
Holiness
lot of
has a
places.
couple. Holiness has theirs, it's kind of a different setup, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a little different than.
They have them permanently affixed in two
But when-
spots, and they get
when
the
we-
power from the
Yeah,
neighbors.
when we think about, for instance, 19 Mile Bay, how people come down that hill, you know, that would, to me, would be an ideal location for
Right.
having it coming down to.
So,
And do we have to pay rent on the telephone pole?
well, that might be a problem with putting them on telephone poles, given our,
So we're looking at a standalone.
it actually would go on, it has a mount that clamps onto
Signpost.
signposts.
Okay, all right.
And if we do it the right way, the state will
It's
not be
happy
upset.
with it, yeah.
It has to have the sign, it has to have it above it, your speed, so it meets the manual of uniform traffic control devices, they'll be okay with it. They won't take them down. They were playing cat and mouse with some places. They put them up and then they take them down and you have to go get them from them. They didn't meet the requirements, so. But so I did look at several vendors. One was cheaper. I mean, they can go crazy with some of the stuff, but anyway. There's some more expensive, but they put it up in the cloud so that you didn't have to go buy them, and you could have network of them, and it was crazy.
And these things collect data, they don't just,
Right, with data collection.
Right,
Yeah.
so.
I did look at, you could get them without data collection, but I did look at one
So you
specifically.
can
data
tell who's
collection.
speeding?
Yeah, well, there was one that offered a camera. I said, no, we cannot do that in New Hampshire.
Really?
You know, it's
They
prohibited.
They take pictures of you at the toll booth.
Yeah.
That's an exemption.
Yeah, yeah.
Toll booth, Memorial Bridge, a couple other bridges, but not generally, you cannot take pictures.
Of course, there are states that have put up these traffic light cameras that are losing money big time.
Yeah.
Well, they put the original bill was for traffic light cameras, but they worded it so broadly, I mean, you can't even have you can't do license plate readers, you can't do a lot of the other technology that is available now, that it was so broadly worded, it excluded a lot. So the vast majority of that 8,300 is those. Go ahead.
The current radar trailer we have,
Yeah.
it seems that this year, last year, the year before, basically, and this is an editorial comment on my part, a white elephant. It's been broken down, the guy is too far away to get it, we're gonna do it when we check our radar units, and this is not aimed at you personally. If it's not usable, it's a white elephant. Is there a possibility of sending it back to the vendor, saying, go through it? What do we need to make sure that it's a working, viable piece of equipment?
They were here last week working on it and told me it was fixed. We'll see. I think it's the charger is gone. They say, no, it's the batteries, but I put new batteries in. And I put new batteries again, so.
Did they tell you what a new charger goes for?
No, but they said it's fine. So, but I had them out here specifically to work on that. Well, one of our other radar units needs some work too, but it supposedly is working.
No, I understand the economy of
It's,
of not making a special trip. Adam bumps into the same thing with his doors, and they have to come from out of town.
yeah.
But guess what? I'm of the opinion that if you have a piece of equipment, it needs to be working 99% of the time. And that's not aimed at you. I want you to have the funds so it's
The
working.
issue with the trailer is it takes some time, and it's kind of a hassle to set up. So you set it up, you kind of don't want to have to move it too often.
Correct.
That's theoretically movable. It is a nuisance to do it. It's not impossible. And when we set it up, you gotta make sure it's not blocking somebody's view from the driveway, that you can safely get it again. I like to make sure it's near somebody's house, so, I mean, we've had, one time we set it on a road and it got hit with, somebody was, throwing stuff at it, and it's got a bend in the Lexan now, with water in it. We've got somebody threw zucchinis at it. Bingo, you hit it.
I guess my question is, for 2018, does there need to be X amount of dollars on a line to make sure that instrument is working properly?
I think repairs and maintenance covers it. That's what we've done it in. Like any vehicle, it's gonna need some maintenance and repairs, and I think we got it covered.
Okay.
I think it's just a matter of, I think it's more than the battery. They say it's the battery. We're gonna check it if we get a nice sunny day, I'll take it out and make sure it's working right, but it doesn't seem to be. I personally think it's the charger, but it's either the charger or the charge controller. I mean, it's a simple thing. There's only like 5 components to it. But there was a switch gone too, which they had to replace when they're out here, so.
I'm going to put money in next year's budget or to spend money, so it's a working piece of equipment. It has not been this year and in past years.
It was working, it was up on Ledge Hill, but then when the batteries went dead, it wouldn't charge them again, and, which in the past it always was able to charge.
And
Actually, last year it
that
stopped
was
working.
how many months ago, Chief?
That was a while ago, and we had them out here, and they said, okay, this is what it'll take, we need to make another. I wasn't here the day they came to do the radars, so when that happened, they said, because I'm the only one authorized to expend funds on behalf of the town for the department, they needed to tell me what was gonna estimate, and I had to approve it, so I did approve them to come back out, so. But they had to first diagnose what they thought it was, and then come back and see if, with parts to see if it was, but that's how it supposedly is working now, and I think it's covered under the repairs maintenance budget.
Thank you for listening.
And the 4,400 for the rifles, I mean, the rifles we have are, I'm trying to think, we got them just when the Richard Sharp murder thing, that was probably about 17, 18 years ago.
You were first here, weren't you?
It was a year after I got here, yes. They came in just before then. And I was talking with the sergeant about, maybe checking into seeing if we trade in, what they'll give us credit for trade. We might be able to do it this year if it works, and it won't cost even close to that for the trade in. And that's why I put it in there. I think it needs to be done because they have night sights on them, which are only good for 10 years, and they're at least 16 years old now.
I have no problem with that expenditure.
So but I guess my point is we might be able to take care of it this year for significantly less than that, even next year, no less than that with the trade-in. As long as everybody's okay with me trading them in. Some places have heartburn over that.
Well, as long as we go through
I'll go through a dealer, and actually, it's even, the 3 of the rifles we have, because of what they are, it's even more controlled, so it's cuts their value down, but it makes it so they can't, very restricted where they can go.
We know.
Well, you always do a petition warrant article to make sure we put the long guns out at sealed bid. Just saying.
I like your sense of humor. Are you still on new equipment?
Yes, I guess.
Computer and server, $5,000.
Yep,
This is a thing with me.
yep.
I think you've struggled and tried to treat the town well. Is this enough money? When your guy is out there, he needs to have this information immediately.
Yeah, I think this is enough money. This is gonna replace our server. The issue with being out on the road is more of it's more of a coverage issue than it is a, Wi-Fi,
Yes,
cellular coverage issue.
yes, there's another layer.
Right, that's a bigger problem that happens. As far as this is gonna replace,
But let's say, for example, all of a sudden magically the coverage issue gets resolved.
yeah.
You still gotta have the computer and the server and the,
This
that
is-
equipment. That's where I'm coming
Yeah,
from.
this is in the office. This is gonna give a new computer where I work, which does our videos right now, and it takes forever to start up because it's got so much stuff on it. It also gives us a new server because our server needs to be updated according to Tom. He wanted to do it this year. I don't know that I have it per se to do it this year. I want to do it next year. So most of that is this new server and take the old
So
server
this is all going
in-house here.
No, but it's all been run by our IT
Yeah.
expert. Okay.
Well, he estimated 3,000 and then another 1,000 for my computer. And I wanted to include a little buffer for his time to get things up and running. Plus I know it's like $100 some odd for IMC to do the transfer. So that's, at some point we are gonna have to do something about, we have, our office computers are, I believe, Windows 7. And within a couple of years, they're not gonna be CGIS compliant, so we're gonna have to do something. So, but that's not 2018.
So our phone service, I mean, maybe it's different for police departments, but it appears as though you're between $200 and $500 year to year increases historically. So we've gone, well, it went down in 13, but back up in 14, up again in 15, up again in 16. I mean, is our bill going up every month, or what's going on?
Bill has stayed fairly consistent. Sometimes it's equipment, like we needed new phones.
So do we put our phone equipment on that line, or put it on the equipment line? I guess that would be nice.
My cellular phones are in my cellular bill, so I put it in there.
Okay.
I think one year we had to get a new phones, that's where that was. It went up too because one big jump in 2016 was because we went to air cards, our modems. So that's why it went from the 4,000 to the 5,800 because we went to, so we can do our reports in the cruisers.
Okay.
So that's part of it, is our cellular data, which, depending upon what the governor does, could drop dramatically or could stay the same, or could go up. Yeah.
This is our only three options.
Yeah, well, it could drop, so it gets kind of convoluted, but there's a program called FirstNet. It's a nationwide network. The state of New Hampshire has not decided whether they're gonna opt in or opt out. If we opt out, which is the recommendation of the statewide interoperability executive committee, and from everybody I've talked to, seems like a better option for New Hampshire, we would see our rate drop to a penny per device per month, which would be a drop of about, well, we could pay about $50 a month, so we'll go from 200 down to, we'd see about $199 in savings a month if the state opts out and Rivada sets up their network as they expect. If we opt in means AT&T provides our cellular data under FirstNet. There's no guarantee that they're going to do anything in this area to improve coverage. So we probably have to stay with Verizon, which means it would stay the same. If we swap over to AT&T, they're not telling what it's going to cost for FirstNet. They are able to charge a monthly fee, just as Verizon does to us now. Rivada has promised a 1 penny per month monthly fee. They have to charge something by law, but they can charge 1 penny.
And as I recall, their business model is they make their revenue off of selling available bandwidth that they're not currently using to commercial.
Both of them will do that.
Yeah. Okay.
AT&T will do that. What is kind of, AT&T is somewhat offering it already, preemption for first responder preemption on their own networks already, which brings up the question of, will they even open up channel 14, which is or band 14, which is supposed to be FirstNet, which has some technical issues. In other words, they've claimed that they can make the first net requirements on their present networks. They don't have to do anything. And
But
so
there's no requirement for them to provide service to Tufton Road
they are required to provide a percentage of coverage by population.
population. So
Which ma- and they
everything
can
south
do-
of Concord and they're fine.
Basically, they can live with what they've got for 5 years, I think it is, on what they've got south of Laconia. They have this beautiful map that shows coverage all over the place, but I guess they've actually had the state police have gone around with devices that measure the actual coverage. It's not holding up. Like Hanover, they show the gray area, but it's actually only like around a tower in Hanover that they have coverage, not around it like they show in their maps. But they are allowed to partner, and they're talking about partnering with rural carriers. I don't know that we have any in the state, although I think one just started up in the Berlin area. Point of it is, I don't know if there's anything guaranteed that they will do and when AT&T, if we opt in. Here's the unfortunate thing. It looks like it's more politics than
Yeah.
anything being involved right now. There's a website set up that kind of makes it sound like the only way first responders are going to get this network is if we opt in, which isn't true and they're promoting this with full page ads in newspapers throughout the state, and the people behind it are, yeah. And so there was quite a discussion about that ad, I guess, at the last meeting last Friday. In fact, today I'm supposed to get some information to kind of see about if we, the chiefs, will take a vote on it. It's a concern that the technical side of it seems to weigh in favor of opting out, but there may be other reasons. And one reason, or legitimate reason to opt in, is the cost of opting out, because there's this number that the state will have to pay over 25 years. Could it be 3 million or could it be 600 million? We don't know the number. And when they asked for that information to help with that decision, there's 24 pages missing from what the FirstNet gave them. So anyway, we could drop a lot of FirstNet if we opt out and everything gets up within a year, which is what they have to do if Rivada gets it. But anyway, long story short, that's why it's gone up over the years.
Was that short?
It wasn't. It said it's a long story. Yeah, short story long, how's that?
There you go.
I got it now. Anyway, that's why it's gone up, because 2016 is when we went to we fully went on board with the
Okay.
air cards. Now I know OSPI's doing that. I think Bartlett was looking at it. I don't know if they're going to. Madison definitely is. Freedom maybe. So a few other places are looking at doing the air cards and like we're doing. But sorry.
I'm good. I guess you established what your needs are for the repair and maintenance as well. So I'm fine. It's a 3% increase somewhere in that?
It's 3.3%, yeah.
Yeah. So you got a 3.3% increase primarily in wages and commensurate benefits.
Yeah, 86% of my budget is personnel related costs.
Sure.
Okay. I move approval of budget 4210 Police Department at a grand total of $391,844.
I'll second.
Under discussion, I have a comment. This coming year will be a busy one for you, Chief, with the responsibilities as President of the New Hampshire Chiefs of Police. What steps have been taken to assign some of the workload to others? And where is this reflected in the budget? I asked you how many call-outs there were this year to date, how many compared to last year. When was the last time we added to the budget for coverage? should we be adding something just for sick and vacation, as sick and vacation time increases as our officers become more senior? At a recent accident investigation on Brown Road, how many hours did the officer work over a 2-day period? Is there any concern about additional summer or late night coverage? What do you recommend next year as far as increasing coverage for the town?
So what I had thought about doing was adding some part-time hours in, see what we could do. It would be kind of tough. I mean, that's one thing I thought of to address some of those issues. I'm actually looking at that. I talked about doing that for next year. I thought about doing it actually for 2019. That's how I was going to address adding some hours to it. Big thing we're seeing, and I've mentioned it before, is people are accruing more time off. And so that means somebody has to fill that.
Right.
But our overtime budget has been okay to cover it. We've been, and in fact, I brought it down a little bit because the grant really wasn't, we didn't participate in the grant, and obviously that's a priority, is making sure we get coverage. But that's how as far as call-outs, I can look that up and compare the numbers over the years.
Go ahead.
It was just, the other night was one of those things, you get called out twice that night. It just happened to be, otherwise, it's, it's a roll of the dice, how, I can't tell you when he might not get called out again for a month now. I mean, it's kind of roll of the dice as to how that went.
So does pushing the overtime budget to cover your time off, does that adversely impact our retirement budget?
Yes, it gets
Sure. Anytime overtime does count. Part-time officers would not.
Right, so
So it's retirement.
we probably ought to take a look at how, if that's an issue that we should be looking. I mean, whether or not you want to continue to use your overtime budgets for that purpose, or whether we need to get into the part-time business based on what other impacts there are in the overall budget.
Well, and you've had part-time officers in the past, correct?
Quite a while ago, yes.
Yeah.
And it brings its own set of issues to the table.
Yeah, most chiefs I talk to that have them, a lot of them are kind of like, we'd rather have another full-time rather than have a bunch of part-time to manage. But it's brings issues to the table of when are they available? Are they available when you need them? How does that work? The ideal thing is if we could find like an officer who recently retired, say, and then have them work a few hours. That's what Jackson has gone towards, and that seems to be better than somebody who has a regular job trying to get a few extra hours in, because in the past, well, my regular job offered me overtime. That counts towards my retirement. That.
Oh, you mean if you pull an officer from another town?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's-
If they work full-time somewhere else and a shift opens up in their town that goes towards their retirement, they're gonna take that rather than come here. And if they're around here, most of the time we're gonna need the help is the summer, when most of the places around here are busy, the summer, so they're not gonna have the free time. But that's what's happened. Some places have found that work pretty well. I know some other places have said it's kind of a nightmare because you have to, they also have to meet the same training requirements. You have to equip them. So there's a high fixed cost, variable number of hours that are available. But I think I'd like to see about that towards 2019. Part of that is because, and it would have worked better, hindsight being 2020, this year's been frustrating because we got rid of the expedition, right? It was not in bad shape. I mean, that would have been good to have another vehicle if we had another part-timer or something to makes it easy. And we had vehicles down. We still have vehicles that are going to be going, and it's been a hard. Well, I was driving a vehicle without any radio or lights for a while. It's a nuisance. Hindsight being 2020, probably should have just left that one as a spare and
Right.
look, and then I would be able to look easier at getting part-timer, and that's why I was looking at 2019.
So I think
My
what I heard
long-term
you
plan.
saying is you want to spend the next year doing a full review of this whole bringing part-timers on, understanding all of the issues and all of the pieces that need to be in place in order to.
And 2019 is also a year we're scheduled to get a new vehicle, and then we keep I'd like to keep the one going offline as a spare for those times when the vehicle's down, and then also if we have a part-timer or something like that, they could come and use it. So that's where I was kind of looking towards that for 2019. And I think I put that towards the CIP that way, is to put that.
I'd like to follow up on that. I've been at 3 meetings. First of all, as I go around the state, deal with people, current chiefs or whatnot, they are complimentary about your professionalism, and I see you burning the midnight oil to 2 in the morning, you know, for NPR radio and the marijuana issue and whatnot. This is the year, in my opinion, that in order for you to continue to be successful, both for New Hampshire and for Tufton Borough, is when you need some extra hours out there for your people. I sat here at 3 meetings where you couldn't come at the last minute because you had to go to, I guess it was a funeral for a chief who lost a family member, and that's appropriate, and I support that 100%. I was at 2 other meetings where there was no one to work the shift. You were working the shift, and you had to leave a CIP meeting and another meeting when you're right in the middle of talking about a new station, new cruisers, you know, like this. And I'm going, wow, my chief can't be successful when, you know, you had to go answer an alarm. So please, my motives are honorable here. I strongly recommend to my board members that we reconsider doing something for your hours. For example, when was the last time you added office help?
I haven't for quite a few years.
You know, the office help, if she's out with a broken leg, who does the work? The other thing is, we ask for reports and different things, and some special projects. You know how to assign tasks. The thing is that Tufton Borough is no longer a one-horse town anymore. Thank you for listening. My motives are honorable, but I'm going to say again, I am in favor for everyone at this table that we really think about adding some personnel hours, some people to your department this coming year. Thank you.
I guess it's the chief's call. Did we vote on this budget, by the way?
No, that was the discussion on your motion.
Are we ready to vote?
Yeah, I mean, just to end the editorializing. I think it's the chief's position to bring that forward to us. I don't think we need to tell him what to do. I'm not gonna, well, I might tell him what to do. but he's not gonna-
Yeah.
So, I would rather have him create something that we can then review and then discuss than trying to second guess what might work for him. Because I'm certainly not qualified to run a police department, let alone a town.
Are we ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, chief.
Did you have
On the
trespass?
road agents
Did
budget,
you have any trespass?
No, that's at the,
Okay.
that'll be next week.
we have a busy Monday. Would it be appropriate to ask if he could come in on Friday and we spend an hour with him?
Do we have a busy Monday? What makes you presume we're gonna have a busy Monday?
We are only meeting a couple of Mondays every month, and as you can see, things back up on us.
Yeah. I'm just wondering what other budgets we have. We have a highway budget, and then some little ones, but
And the rest of like the little ones.
We have personnel.
Right.
Yep.
That's a big one. And we also have health.
Well, I thought we were gonna do healthcare today.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I'm not averse to setting it up in front of you, just,
I think the last department head to meet with is Jim, which could be preferred.
if we're gonna do it, let's do it early in the morning, let's do 8:30 and get over
Okay,
it.
sure.
So we don't waste the whole day on it.
Yep.
And have them come prepared. I don't-
Friday or
yeah.
Monday? Friday?
What-
Friday's good with me.
Friday's
Good with
fine,
you.
yep.
Do I want to go with signature?
Do that.
Continue with,
Yeah, let's finish that.
okay.
Or I fall asleep.
We had IT action items for computers. Everyone read that?
Yep.
And are we satisfied where our computer budgets are? Okay. And this year we got nickeled and dimed with machines that broke down. I'd like to see a more global, but
Well, maybe we should, at some point in time, talk about an IT budget. Just
Yeah.
move everything into an IT budget so that we can take a look at it. I'm glad that he's running by, our chief is running by our IT department, his server. I'm wondering if we should be collectivizing our purchasing as opposed to letting each department buy their own.
right.
Just a thought.
New Hampshire Energy. Did you read that?
Yep.
Okay, we talked about Lakes Region household hazardous. We had a number of people come in October 21st in Wolfboro. It breaks down. This was please help protect drinking water. Okay. Tony Triolo called regarding the payment. I let him know, this is for River Reach. I let him know that the board met with David Ladd and told him that the budget would be reviewed again in December to see if there are funds available. If not, then this would be budgeted for 2018. That's it for correspondence.
Excuse me, do you have the thing for the White Horse Addiction Center in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we already did that.
Oh, I must have been out of the room, sorry. Is that, could you please let me know what your decision was for that? Do you need her to come in, or are we good? Is it gonna
Was
be-
there a specific amount listed? I didn't see one.
I didn't see one either.
When she came in, I think she said 2,500.
Mhm.
All right, so that's gonna go on, if we were to do that, that would be going on to our charitable gifts. And
Yes.
all
Right.
that.
Or I don't know if you want to do it.
Okay.
Right.
Or a warrant, I wasn't sure. Maybe a warrant last year.
I'm
Anyway,
not
I
sure
didn't know if we
if
made a decision.
You think
that's
we
all.
would cure the drug addiction problem in a year? I love that. Yes, positive thinking.
The Warren article was that other.
The other
place in
one,
North
yeah,
Carolina.
Yes,
Washington,
and
or whatever.
and often what happens when new charities are brought on board, the initial funding is added as an article on the warrant in the first year. It gives the legislative body an opportunity to say, yes, we want to support this, or no, we don't.
One thing that wasn't really clear to me, and maybe I just didn't listen to it closely enough, there's a reason why we don't allow charities or charitable purposes to go to the county and then to the towns, because that's double dipping.
Yes.
And she came up with an explanation for why it was working in this situation.
It was, what I recall is one area of the work they do is
That's right,
supported
that's right.
from the
Yeah.
county, and this is a separate area that they're looking
Okay.
to towns.
She was instructed
For
to keep
support.
her request very specific. So
Right.
when she went to Wolfboro, she had a very specific request, and that was different from the request to talk to her. So
Right.
that's how she's.
Well, we're older.
I know the budget committee over the years, in a minority, has had questions about, visiting nurses and Red Cross and all that.
Yeah.
And I will just say, I always took the point of view, you look at those individually, and we're paying for services It would cost us more if we go on the outside. And of course, an individual tells me that's just spin, and I said, well, look at the dogs, for example. The Humane Society, they're a nonprofit, yet they provide a service. Well, that's different. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
you'll be asked about that again.
all right. I'm not a fan of some of the charitable purposes requests that just walk a fine line with the separation of church and state,
Right.
but
Yes.
I'm not comfortable with it.
Well, I can think of two that I gave some thought about as a selectman. First of all, Red Cross, a couple of years ago, had a very, I didn't appreciate their record, that for every dollar they took in, how much was spent on services, and it was one of the, in my opinion, one of the poorest nationally. Then there was a Blue Loon, and as the selectman said, let's give it 3 years to make a difference. And then when they didn't make a difference, 1 year there was only one person that used it all year. Guess what? I think the budget committee cut their request substantially. So
I mean, there's a classic example of double dipping. I mean, when Blue Moon initiated, it was all county.
yes,
And it's the only way it would work. I mean,
Yes.
one community
can't do it.
can't do it. I mean, the population of Carroll County is less than the population of Rochester, so you got an enormous space with not that many people.
Right.
So just to confirm, you don't need her to come back and just be discussed
Maybe,
later?
maybe we can discuss it amongst ourselves, the request, and
Yeah.
to make it economical for her is if the budget committee wants to speak to her.
Okay.
Sometimes
Should we, I mean, we need to come up with a recommendation for the
Yeah.
budget committee
Yeah.
by the 21st or whenever we do it. So
Is that when you're doing the charitable budgets?
we're gonna do them sooner or later, so I don't know exactly what the
Well,
schedule
it would seem
is.
to me that the time for us to spend time talking about this is when we're going through the charitable budgets.
Yeah,
This is a new request that's come in.
yeah, we'll see how it
That's a
affects.
budget item to be done, right?
I'm sure, I'd be honest with you, I bet you we're gonna be done everything by Monday. We're really accelerated. I think we have many budgets left.
Imagine that. But I think you're right, though.
If not,
I think-
it'll be long.
I think when the budget's in front of us, then we'll talk about it, and then we'll recommend, and then we'll go forward.
So that means you're doing the remainder on Friday?
Sounds like Jim
No, we're
Friday
gonna
and
do
then
the
more on
highway
Monday.
department on Friday, and then Monday we'll cut it off, I think.
Well,
Seems
another big
Become
one,
a
another big
collective
one's gonna be the
conversation.
personnel,
Right.
correct?
The Diane's, yep,
Yeah,
prepared
that's
for
a
that,
big
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Are we ready to talk about health insurance?
Sure.
Yep.
Does anyone need to take a break?
No?
Okay.
You guys are healthy. Okay, and then we'll stand up.
Seventh inning stretch, come on.
Yeah, 7th inning stretch. I mean, I'll stay here all day if you want to finish up today.
Well-
It's raining. But when it's not raining,
Last
I need to
year,
be doing
wasn't
something
there the
else.
warrant article for the one in Conroe?
Yes.
Yeah, it was about
And that was 5,000, and then it was up to 1,000.
500.
500, and then it was
Or
increased.
5,000, or yeah, 500 and up to 1,000.
Mhm.
And has this one been assisting Tufton Borough residents? Do we know?
She indicated that they have.
And that's a question I'm sure she would be asked at a budget
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay. That was my only question.
So is the American Red Cross on the list again?
I don't know, we haven't got the
Oh, you
list
haven't
yet.
gotten it yet?
That budget we haven't
It
done yet.
probably is. There was only 1 year, and I think I was guilty of making the
They're spread thin with representatives, I understand, and I met the one in, one of them, the woman who's in charge of the region came to Carpenter School when the kids raised money for hurricane relief. But they do run blood drives, which,
Well, I think the blood drives is an important aspect of what they do,
They also do swimming.
so.
but they've been knocked out before.
Yeah, that was.
Diane said everything might not be done next on Monday, so we're able to put it nonetheless.
Who's not gonna be done?
She, for the one she has to work on. Possibly. So we'll see.
She'd
If
be,
you want local money, you have to come.
Well, I know it's a small one, but Milfoil won't be here until the end of November
You have to
at
do more
least.
explanation.
Yeah, right. Stuff like that. Okay, yeah.
Maybe
So, but we're
maybe
gonna-
beyond that, but we're not talking.
No.
Well, they don't realize the other topics.
Ready to do healthcare and dental coverage. Is dental coverage easy to do? Get that out of the way?
Sure. You already got one of these?
Yes.
Is this a revision from the last?
There's no revision on this one, no.
That's the same.
This is the same one as the,
Yep.
what you looked at, but I.
this is the same as this.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
All right.
Now, what I'm going to, well, if you want to do the dental first, let's look at
Sure.
this. Would be on page 2, the second printout. It says dental. Right here.
Okay.
So you get the 2017 rates, and the 2018 are on the right. And we're looking at a 2.3% increase.
So the gross dollar increase per individual is $44.64 per year.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Well, let's see, on the bottom here, it's right here, the total.
Yeah.
So the total for dental goes up by not quite $400. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And there's only one horse in town on dental, right? We're not looking at an alternative. There isn't an alternative.
They're all pretty similar.
That's,
They're all pretty similar.
And the coverage hasn't changed.
No.
okay.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I sign.
Yeah.
Motion passes 3-0.
The dental's done.
I am going to give you another spreadsheet. One that Chip asked me to put together total costs. For example, health reimbursement account, family savings account, and the insurance waiver. Okay, so that's also included into the insurance premium.
So what's our total cost coverage?
Thank you.
This thing's moving around a little bit. And
Okay.
then you had a holiday premium that you had to credit to the Harvard Pilgrim plan. So your net annual cost is X, and then, so we're comparing apples to apples, I guess is what I'm looking for.
While people are reviewing that, Diane, can I ask the following question? In the last 5 years, this company has given us a holiday, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have an estimate of either what that amount of money is in the last 5 years this company has saved us?
I don't have it with me, no.
Would it be $5,000 a year?
It
times
averages between 5 and 6.
Mhm.
Since I've been here, since 2014, it's been between 5 and 6,000.
So it has been a company that has worked with us, shall I say, correct?
Yes, I mean, they have programs to reduce costs, to encourage our employees to shop around, for procedures and lab work. your preventative types of care.
And the other question I have is, it's my understanding that this town has the bronze plan, correct? And that's where the subscriber pays 40% of their medical costs. Right? They have the different medical, they have the different metal designations.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, they have the Cadillac plan, which we don't, they never gave me a.
For example, surrounding towns have the silver and the platinum plan, that they charge their families a certain amount of money.
Yeah, I don't really know what the other surrounding towns have for plans. I mean, that takes quite a bit of research to do.
When I'm out and around, I ask them.
Yeah.
You know, I know 2 towns that abut us do not have the bronze plans. They're a little bit better.
Okay.
My point is that you're an employee here and you go onto the plan. We have a bronze plan, and if you were to sit down and actuarially figure out everything, you're paying 40% of your medical costs. No, I spoke to some people, for example, they would have a $10 copay on visit to a doctor. Under these other plans, that would jump to 60.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and the co-pays and the total deductibles, the maximum out of pocket is changing.
Yes.
If we change plans. So, I mean, I'm looking at, if we just compare the best Anthem plan to what we currently have, we're saving $75,000. As we used to say in the cow business, that ain't hay.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, there's an impact on the insured.
Yes, there is.
So do we mitigate that through some internal mechanism, or do we say $75,000 saved isn't enough?
I'm going to expand the discussion a little bit. We have 5 or 6 employees that, if not this year, next year will be at the end of the matrix. And the only benefit that they really get would be health care. The second thing is, I've heard it for all the years that I've been here, our employees are our #1 resource. I've also heard people tell me that if we were to lose an employee, it costs 1.5 times their salary to replace them as they wind down and a new person comes. The last thing is, just at Clay's operation alone, he's going to make $40,000, which covers the 11% expense. And my last comment is, just like we did with, you get your merit increase on your anniversary date, could we go maintain the status quo, but that's something that's on the agenda for hard introspection in the coming year. Thank you.
The health reimbursement account, we fund that, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And that's used to offset
Out of pocket.
out of pocket. Okay. So,
And if the person doesn't
What?
use all of it, it comes back to the town.
so one way to accommodate a potential higher cost for out of pocket is the same way we do it now, which is with a health reimbursement account, so that the effect on the covered member in using services gets covered.
Mitigated.
Right.
Mitigated, right?
Right. We talked, last time we talked, there was a question about the potential in changing programs, changing insurers for covered members having to go to a different doctor because the new plan has a different set of doctors in their network than the existing plan. Do we get any information about that? Is there?
What I did is I sent all the employees a link to check to make sure that their doctors would be in the same network as Anthem that they are using. And so I also gave them an attachment of what was covered, the summary that you have in your packets for the Anthem product, option 1 and 2. And I've also had one-on-one with the department heads, making sure they got the email. Did they get any input from their staff? And apparently, I've not heard that their doctors were not in the network.
Nobody's come back and said this
Right.
is going to cause an issue. Okay.
Right, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
I've had 6 employees tell me that it'll cost more out of pocket to not stay with the current.
Okay.
That's 6 employees out of 14.
Say that we-
And yes,
In a constructive,
But then I
positive.
double negative. What happened in this conversation?
6 employees
Yeah.
have said they have compared
One
the current
company.
program,
Yeah, we have,
and they've gone through item by item, copay and deductible and all that, and that these programs over here would be more money out of pocket for them.
1 and 2, Anthem 1 and 2. Yeah,
Right.
right,
All
yes.
right.
And that is,
And
yes.
but is that covered under the HRA plan?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So is this really out of pocket for them, or is this just money that the health insurance plan doesn't cover, but the town covers it?
Do we reimburse, or do they,
Well-
how does that work? Do the hospital bill us for the HRA, or do we?
The benefit strategies manages the HRA and the benefit family savings account. But the Anthem option 1 and 2, the employees are going to be using their health reimbursement account going to go through it a lot quicker than with the program that we are now at. So they will.
$75,000 quicker?
750. Or, excuse me, it depends on,
All
like,
right. I mean, it isn't all about the dollars, okay? But if you look at the Anthem option 1, right? The total cost, if I'm reading this correctly, is $75,000 less to the town than the current plan, correct? So, we have the health reimbursement account, which helps cover the uncovered expenses. The town has funded $8,500. I have no idea how much of it has been used, but we're
increasing
saying that co-pays and uncovered services are going to go up. So my question is, are they going to go up to the extent of $75,000? Because if they aren't, then from a dollars and cents standpoint, if the town is paying that out of this pot rather than this pot,
Right, I mean,
then it
she's
makes sense.
she's increased the HRA to 10,125, or 10,625. So you got a 25% increase in HRA if you follow the cost structure down. So you're already spending 8,500, now you're gonna spend 2,125. Does that cover, I guess, Bill's question is, have we exhausted the current HRA for this year for our employees?
I just got a bill yesterday. I have to,
and I'm not looking exactly for an answer at this point, but the benefit to
The towns,
the town to basically partially self-insuring here is that the money that doesn't get used
goes back to the town.
doesn't get used, okay? So once we send this $75,000 extra dollars to the current plan that we're on, okay, for next year, we might get a $6,000
check.
offset in the following year's premium as a result of that, right? So let's take 6,000 off, and again, I'm not talking exact numbers here, but conceptually. So that, if you take that 6,000, but the 6,000 is already
Right.
pulled out of here.
75 grand is net.
So that 75 is net. So let's say that to fund all of the employee health care expenses that we're currently covering through reimbursement, the stuff that's not covered in the plan that Benefit Strategies takes care of, right? Instead of having $8,500 in there, which we've had, we have $18,500, another $10,000. Or $28,500, another $20,000. We're still looking at a reduction in healthcare costs.
True.
Or
Okay,
we take the $75,000 that we know we're gonna save, and she's already added in a 25% increase in the HRA. But we take the $75,000 out of our designated fund balance, put it into a trust, specifically for the occurrence that you're mentioning.
yeah,
Where we need to step up for our employees so that they're not getting killed. Now it's a win-win. We've spent our own money, or invested our own money into a situation.
We're not raising new tax dollars for that
Well,
75,000.
75 is just gonna go into the pocket of Harvard Pilgrim if we buy their plan.
right.
You know, I mean, there's no escaping that.
We ought to be able to, based upon a projection of usage, all right, at a different rate, say, okay, for instance, this year we spent, out of 8,500, we spent
Yeah, the calculator.
8,300, okay? If we look at the same rate of healthcare usage as what we have now, at an increased per occurrence reimbursement rate, that would take that 8,500 to twice that, 3 times that, whatever. I don't know what the, somewhere there's detail that we can look at to say,
I mean, one of the key factors is that we're going from 4,000 to 5,000 in total out of pocket. And
Right.
I would assume that the 4,000 is getting covered by the HRA in some form. So we've got 14 employees, so you got an additional $14,000 worth of exposure by adding $1,000 per employee to that out of pocket. So, I mean, I guess where I'm going with this is, your maximum exposure is an additional $14,000. And to save 75,000, and it costs you
Well,
14 grand, it's.
right, so now you save 61,000.
If you spend it all.
Yeah, right.
Right.
If you take the current, if you take,
My interest is in not having it adversely impact any of the covered people.
Right.
But I think we can't just turn a blind eye to the fact that there's significant savings here. And particularly if it doesn't impact the covered individual, right? So if instead of, if the amount that comes out of Benefit Strategies goes up, right? But in the end, the effect on the covered individual is the same, then are there other things? And again, the two of you are both covered by the program, right? The current insurance. And so I'm looking for feedback as to, am I missing something here? It isn't all about the dollars. It's about the quality of healthcare and the coverage and the affordability for the individual, right? So on the stuff that comes from Benefit Strategies, is there a timing issue that we're looking at here? In other words, you have to pay it and then you get it back from Benefit Strategies? And is that going to be a significant impact to the individual? Is that going to be a hardship? And if it is there a way that we can create a mechanism to
There you go.
to take care of that timing issue and still help us to keep the costs more under control. Because the health reimbursement account is, as I said earlier, it's partial self-insurance for the town, okay? We're saying we're gonna cover this cost, but instead of buying that coverage totally from the insurance company, we're gonna take our dollars and use it to pay the co-pays, the deductibles, that sort of thing. Am I making sense?
I follow you, yes?
I've done some quick math. If we take the current Harvard Pilgrim plan, 324, 122. Okay so far? And we deduct 75,000, the fund that in raising it from 4,000 to 5,000, and we fund that out of the fund balance. That means the taxpayers this year will be paying $2,049,122 toward health costs. Correct?
You lost me, I'm sorry.
You take the 324, 122,
What was your last number, 294,000?
yes, minus $75,000 for the, I'm gonna call it the special fund, the support fund.
No, okay, let's stop right there. We're not gonna expend that $75,000 on an annualized
Right.
basis.
No,
That's just to set it aside. The only difference I can see is 14,000.
but now we're not gonna spend that
It's not gonna
75,000.
affect the tax rate either. I mean, you can't add that on to setting the taxes, because we already have the money.
Well, let me,
I just threw that up into the air. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yes.
saying-
All right,
we
here-
didn't talk about it.
here's another way to look at this, all right? If we say we are gonna flat fund our budget for health coverage, okay? This year we spent 324, 122, and that's what we're gonna budget total for next year. But we're gonna go with a plan that costs us $290, okay? And that other 34,000, we'll put it in the HRA plan or wherever, and it only gets spent if it gets spent. If it doesn't get spent, it just stays there. And now, it's not a special fund, other than it's a fund that sunsets at the end of the year. It
Well, at the
doesn't
end of the
roll.
year, it's gonna roll into your undesignated fund.
Right,
balance.
and then you deal with it again. But what that's doing is, that's keeping our budgeted cost for health
Flat.
flat, right? And providing the employee with my understanding of the way this works is that they're gonna have the same benefit, just from a different carrier. So the way the pieces fit are gonna be a little bit different. The co-pays, the deductibles, those kinds of things are gonna change. They're gonna be able to use their same providers that they're using now. Those co-pays and deductibles that we currently fund out of the health reimbursement account would still be funded out of the health reimbursement account. Just, there's gonna be more money needed there because those co-pays and deductibles are higher.
I think that's a really fair resolution.
Hmm?
I think that's totally fair. I mean, I
Okay,
really
now,
appreciate it.
my
So
concern
are we
is,
paying 100% of the maximum out of pocket? Is that-
I don't know.
Oh,
How does it
yeah.
work?
Well, I mean, I guess I was kind of thinking myself, for instance, if we have $15 copay right now and some copays go to 40, the percentage increase for that, I don't know, I was just trying to think of different ways to.
When you get reimbursed from Benefit Strategies, okay, do your co-pays to the doctor get reimbursed?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Does are there any expenses that don't get reimbursed? Do your prescription,
Usually, anything that the health insurance will pay is
Right.
related to, it's a,
if it's an
an
eligible expense,
medical expense, then benefit strategies will pay for it.
Right, prescriptions and so
All
forth.
right.
If you're looking to have benefit strategies pay for, let's say, vitamins, and it's not prescribed by the doctor, they won't pay for that.
Right.
No,
That-
right.
Just an example of what they
Right.
don't pay.
so basically they take the statement that comes from the insurance company and the patient pays piece is what they will
Right.
reimburse.
You get a receipt from the doctor, you take that receipt, you send it to benefit strategies, and you get reimbursed for your
So
out-of-pocket.
we really need to know what that number is. How much of the HRA have we expended this year?
Well, yeah.
Because, I mean, ultimately, if you said all 14 individuals have a maximum out-of-pocket of $5,000.
That's called the deductible HRA reimbursement,
HRA, yes.
okay? We've spent $7,528.77 as of October 30th.
Okay,
We've had $971 left.
so $500 per employee.
No, it depends on your plan. If you have a single, you get $250.
No, I mean, to keep the math simple. You have 14 people on your insurance.
Mhm.
So you spent $7,000, that's $500 a person,
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
okay?
Or family.
But I mean, I'm looking at the maximum out of pocket is going from 4,000 to 5,000. We're not even close to the 4. And our total exposure at 5,000 for 14 people is $70,000.
Yes,
So that would be our maximum exposure
Yes.
if the sky actually did fall.
yes.
I'm glad you brought that up because it is $1,000 deductible per person. So for instance, you have a surgery and you've had a family of 4, and 2 of you have surgery.
Or
or
maybe all
whatever,
4 of
you-
them.
you- Right,
Yeah,
and so
family.
you're all gonna pay 1,000
Right.
out of, so, I guess that's my point, meaning,
But that's all currently all coming out of the HRA.
no,
Okay, it isn't.
it's very small. Like for instance, this family gets 750.
Okay,
I know, it's not 750 right now per family, but your maximum out of pocket is, I think, currently 3 right now.
I don't,
Per family.
I hate to just keep dragging this thing out.
Yeah.
I don't have enough information as we're sitting here today. I don't feel that I have enough information to say we can make this move or not because I don't understand well enough how all these pieces run. I mean,
And this also gives an opportunity for, and I go back to Chip's comment that we discuss something one day and take a week and think about it, and someone comes in with another idea or comes in with some input. And it gives them, and it gives our
So the
employees.
employee is participating after the HRA is exhausted, is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, like
Yeah,
I've
every
already
quarter.
exhausted mine. It
Okay,
didn't take very long, because I can also take dental expenses towards
okay, so the HRA portion of this doesn't come into play until we figure out if the co-pays and the deductibles adversely impact the individual.
do you have a document that lays all this stuff out,
I guess I can lays out the HRA.
how the HRA works?
Well,
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
There
one
is,
small thing is that that benefit strategies, we only have a very short window of time that we have to get reimbursed if we do get a card. So if we go to the doctors and it's an eligible expense, and you slide your card, it's not coming out of your pocket at that time, it'll come out of your HRA.
Okay.
But again, like Chip brought up, it's not all of it, it's right now, like I say, $750 a person maximum, after that you shut off, the card doesn't work anymore, type thing.
I have another question. Is there a deadline where these companies need to have an answer from us?
Yes,
That's what I was gonna
November
say.
1st.
Which was the other day. I mean, I think we can make the decision, and this is just my position, we can make the decision to save the $75,000 and then start working on how we're gonna adjust the cost to the employee.
So that
Secondarily to that, we got 75 grand in the pot now that we can move around.
I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah,
That's correct.
so, again, I don't want any of the covered people in the plan to suffer a huge change in their world. Sounds like that, as far as we know, people aren't gonna have to change their providers or those kinds of things. Now, deductibles, co-pays look like they're gonna change, so we ought to be able to figure out a way so that for the individual participant, they're not seeing a change.
Well, that's really my answer.
Okay.
Yeah, so-
Out of the $75,000 that we're saving
Right.
in,
I mean, there's gotta be some accommodation on the part of the employee that things move. And if there's a 2 or 3 or 4, even a 10% increase in their cost of healthcare, I don't see that as being onerous. But we've got an awful lot of ability if we go with Anthem, because we have that 75 grand savings, that we could actually realize a $50,000 savings in our budget, even
Sure.
making major changes.
Yep.
So I'm not certain I'm willing to stay where we are, but that
Yep.
number on the table.
What you're thinking of doing is going with Anthem Health Trust, option 1,
That would be my recommendation.
and your other recommendation is that we would change the HR plan to 75,000, correct?
No, I think my other recommendation would be that we
revisit that.
we revisit the HRA. I mean, I'm not familiar enough with the conditions of the HRA to talk about it today. But I think we need to, if we're going to accommodate an employee to any degree, that's where we do it. I mean, I think Anthem probably provides the same medical coverage as, they're not doing medicine anyway, they're just an insurance company. But I think we can at this juncture decide to go with a lower cost plan, and given the gross savings, I mean, if it was $20,000, I'd say that, oh, that's not worth it. But your $75,000 savings, now we can start talking about how we're gonna adjust the HRA to accommodate them.
And
I don't think we need to use it all.
And I like your idea, when you talk about trust fund, if we were to take the 75 out of the fund balance, that is the first step to accomplishing
But that's a whole
what your
other-
vision is. And that's another question.
Another discussion to
Yes,
have.
right.
And we still have to run all this by the budget committee.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm gonna make a motion that we sign up with Anthem Health Trust option 1 for an adjusted annual cost of $290,109.96.
I'll second it.
Chair, that includes the increased HRA figure, you don't want to.
Okay, 287, on my motion, $287,984.96. Thank you.
Yeah, just so you know, that's also going to include the current
Current
HRA, you
HRA.
want to do all that?
It's gotta be
So-
in the health plan,
Okay.
I think. I mean, it's just gonna confuse the guidelines of the world.
The
if we
piece
start
that we're
moving
talking
things
about
around.
today,
It's just the
the piece that we're talking about today is $269,023.
Right.
Okay,
That's the
so, and
That's just to the healthcare.
that's step 1,
right.
all right? And we need to get signed up with them, so let's do that.
All right, so we'll modify our motion one more time to be Anthem Health Trust option 1 for $269,022.96.
I'll second that.
With the understanding the HRA account is something that we will research and discuss later, correct?
Correct.
Right. This is not the total cost of the healthcare plan, this is the cost of the
Insurance premium.
insurance carrier's premium,
Right.
right?
Is that clear to everybody? Clear to me. Are we ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes
So the
3-0.
number I'll bring to the budget committee is gonna be the gross numbers for discussion purposes.
Yes.
I gotta tell them that they'll be informed that we need need to talk about the HRA number.
Yes, we'll probably have that decision made by the next time we speak to them.
Yep.
So you need that, you have to wait for budget committee for what Diane needs to do?
I'm sorry?
No.
No.
No, that's not, this is not gonna go to the budget committee until
Right.
selectmen are
Right, done with it.
done with
The contract
HRA.
Yeah.
Cool.
But that question's gonna come up at the next budget meeting. I mean,
We're working
Guy
on
Pipe
it.
won't vote on budgets until he knows what the personnel costs are. So we need to start feeding the information upwards
Yep.
or sideways, whatever.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time. How does this affect the November 1st?
No, I called and I asked them if we could have a few more days. We were meeting today, they said that was fine.
Thank you very much.
And they'll send representatives here for the changeover.
Yes.
Okay. Next is Selectmen's updates. Who wants to go first?
Get my roof on it.
Go ahead.
I did some follow-up on the Diesel Emission Reduction Act. That was, remember
Like the truck.
the truck? And I was at Lakes Region, the meeting, and they reviewed the minutes and the tape. And Elizabeth Strachan made the comment about it can't be for a vehicle that's on the CIP.
Before 2023. Right.
Okay, I'm still confused over that. Can we,
We've submitted our application.
okay, okay. Computer action items we've talked about. On November 2nd, Mark Howard and I, representing the town of Tuftonboro, met with Mike Izzard and Jeff Hayes of Lakes Region Planning. I'll give you a copy of this. In the past 2 years, we had identified 4 road projects in the town of Tuftonboro. Mark Howard coordinated with DOT to get Route 171 repaved, and he got them to keep it on the 10-year list. It had been taken off. Mark and Lake Region Planning coordinated a meeting with various DOT officials, and we made a site visit to the Mirror Lake Narrows on Route 109. There was a half-mile section that bubbled up with water on a daily, year-round basis. The state combined resources with a number of their departments, and they rebuilt in increments about 2 miles of culverts, drains, and ditch work from Mirror Lake Church well into Wolfboro past the Libby Museum. Both of these projects were done quietly and behind the scenes, and I'll tell you that the state appreciates the non-adversarial approach that Tuftonboro takes. 3, we continue to work on improving the Tuftonboro Four Corners on Route 171. This is a very dangerous intersection. As you enter Ledge Hill Road, coming from the school, it is impossible to see oncoming traffic that's coming down the hill westbound. In October, 2 town residents, each driving in opposite directions on Route 171, were almost killed when a loaded tractor-trailer truck of wood chips came up Ledge Hill Road and failed to stop. The driver said he was traveling between 30 and 35 miles an hour. Unfortunately, the state is money challenged, and it has to go on the fact that there have been no deaths at this intersection. Mark is again quietly examining our options, and his contacts have been helpful. The other location is the Route 109-109A intersection. Anyone you talk to agrees that this is just an accident waiting to happen. Lakes Region Planning has kept both of these intersections on the 10-year plan. Mark and Lakes Region Planning have been investigating some possible ways of improving these 2 areas. With your permission, I'll continue to have Mark work on it. I had this is Lakes Region This is a Recreation Commission lifeguard and swim instructor. I had a conversation in Wolfboro with Town Manager Owen about the ongoing problems that many of our communities are having hiring lifeguards and swimming instructors. We discussed the possibility of the town of Tuftonboro and Wolfboro combining resources. No pun intended, but we already pool our resources in the other areas of recreation. He referred me to Christine Collins, Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation, Wolfboro. I had a meeting with her. She is more than willing to investigate working together with Tuftonboro. I'd like to be able to send a copy of this memo to Gino Lasarda.
So your expectation would be to increase the donation we're giving to the poor town of Wolfboro?
These are my thoughts initially, and they're only mine. Rather than the money that we go and hire the person, we use that money to help Wolfboro get a qualified person to supply lifeguards and swimming instructors. But it would be up to Gina and Christine to come up with a suggestion and come back to us. I don't see adding any more money to the budget. Okay on that?
Good.
Thank you.
Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I'll be traveling with your permission, traveling to Conway to meet with Ann Getchell from USDA. There are community facility programs with grants. It's a little bit too soon to do anything. I mean, there's not enough time to do grants for November and December, but I'm talking about getting something for next year. And there were 4 or 5 different things that in other towns they've gotten money for. I'll investigate and I'll get back to you. That's it for me.
I will mention that CIP is meeting this Wednesday. We're kind of working toward the close of the CIP process, and the committee is in the process of starting to put the report together. Looking toward, I think, early December as a time frame to make a presentation to the budget committee and this board. There was correspondence from the state on grants for safe roads, and don't know if we have anything that would fall into that out of some of the issues that you were talking about with respect to intersections. I mean, this is a program that provides grant money to improve road safety in towns, and there are criteria that they look at. I don't have the.
Yeah. Mike Izzard and Jeff Hayes from Lakes Region Planning mentioned that,
right,
and we talked about it. They're investigating it. Parenthetically, along the same lines, if you look at Middleton Road, that it was actually a state road, but the state paid 2/3 and Wolfboro paid 1/3. Well, the legislature, in their wisdom, they got the last grant two years ago. And the Lakes Region Planning and its other contemporary planning agencies are trying to get the legislature to refund that program. It certainly makes sense when different towns are willing to come up and pay 1/3 of the bill.
Right.
It's cost effective with the way to the state to save money. But to answer your question, yes, that is being looked into.
Okay.
Anything else?
In the interest of keeping the budget as flat as possible, we've got a $618,000 worth of warrant articles last year. Do we have some idea of what this year's going for? We get $200,000 worth of paving, so $280,000.
Right.
Or whatever number we come up
Yes.
with, so we get another
There's paving,
$350,000.
there's also the contingency fund that has to be voted on every year.
Yeah.
That's traditionally been $5,000. The pet gorilla in the room is the library. When are we gonna find out about that?
Yeah, that was my next question, is has the library made mention of when they're gonna come forward? And I've looked at the CIP, but I haven't seen any big equipment purchases for 2018. Am I missing something?
Let me, I'm going from memory, we're looking at a replacement vehicle for the code officer,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
We're
I
looking.
mean, fire engine.
Oh, yeah,
please.
yeah, no fire apparatus in 2018.
I thought engine 2 was being replaced.
Well,
In 18,
I don't, quite honestly, I don't recall. No. Been away from it for a couple of weeks, and I,
Road improvements,
yeah.
Union Wharf reconstruction project.
so
Those are not 18.
Lake Road culvert and design.
It's not 18. So, there may be a, yes, I think there is a fire apparatus
Yes.
in 2018.
Road reconstruction. Union Wharf reconstruction, no. Lake Road. Paving, highway, garage area, parking area.
30 grand, yeah.
31,000, I don't, 2018. New equipment, 2023, highway six-wheeler. Heating system,
2019.
2020.
That's
235 road improvements, that's to be discussed. Spectrum cable is off the board because it's under 10. Compactor replacements,
That's
2019
out years, yeah.
to 23. Storage facility, that's out there. Town office maintenance, 4,200 per unit.
Yeah, replacement mini splits,
That's,
yeah,
yeah,
12 grand,
2018,
yeah.
okay. Front entrance replacement, 2018 for 22,000. Weight scales is out there in the future. Library expansion, 2018. Estimated total cost, 1.882 thousand. Our goal is to come as close to 1.7 as possible. That's 2018. 2020. Equipment replacement for fire department? Nope. 2018, estimated total cost, 580,000, engine 2, fire department.
Ouch. So we need to have a discussion with the fire chief. I mean, we gotta balance out the library. If
Yep.
they come in, you know, this another year with engine 2 gonna put them behind the eight
Exactly.
ball.
2025, 800,000 for a fire truck.
I think those are all on numbers.
23, 25, we can keep going, 21, 21, portable radio radios. 22 breathing apparatus. That's capital reserve. Emergency radio coverage scheduled for 2019. I think they got a grant for that. 3,500. Doesn't say when. New vehicle. Is that?
That's right, that's Kodof's truck. We already talked about that.
2018.
Right.
Yes. Okay, that's what I have. I've got for copies. I might have missed something.
Yep.
Anything else? Can we go to other business?
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you folks read the closing policy, just as a review?
Yep.
It didn't, you know, I asked that this be put just for you to review. Anything you'd like to say, Karen, that we need for adjustments? I have one, but you and I have talked about it.
Yep, that's all. I mean, yep.
And the thing that I mentioned to her is that Channel 9 keeps calling us Tuftonboro, which is appropriate, but they also call the Tuftonboro Central School Tuftonboro. And last year we had several instances where people who have to travel from out of town read that Tuftonboro was closed, and no, it wasn't, it was the school. Is there any way that you can look?
Isn't that the Governor Butler School District?
That's right.
But they announced that as a SAU.
That's right, and the school district I spoke to, and Channel 9 forgot about it or whatever. Do you feel confident that you could follow up on that, Karen?
Yep.
Now, the next thing is, in past years, we talked about notifying people, and there's couple different ways of doing it. First of all, there's the internet, right? And there's the radio, TV. What about having a recording on a phone that people can call in and get the information? Remember we talked about that?
I do that on our main line.
Okay.
Yeah, I can change
The other thing is the school district and the fire department have had great success with what they call the alert system, where a message is put in and then it dials whatever number people want. Is that alert system something we want someone from the fire department to educate us about what it costs? It's just a thought.
I guess my first thought with respect to that is when you have huge numbers of calls to make, that's a terrific way to go. How many people are we talking about when we're talking about the town office being closed? Handful, right? Transfer station being closed, handful. So I'm wondering if an automated system like that might be overkill for what we're attempting to do, which is to notify employees that
Well, you know, the suggestion that was made to me is exactly that. The person also said, you know, it can be used for other things too. Meetings are canceled and, or, you know, things like that. I said I would bring it up.
Well, I guess the only change I'd make to the policy is the authority. I mean, I'm not really in favor of giving the department heads the authority. I mean, we should have the chairman of the select board make the call, and if that person isn't available, then the vice chairman, and if that person isn't available, then the last guy standing. But yeah, one of the three of us is always around, and
Yes.
and inability to contact selectmen, I think, has the element of abusability. Oh, I couldn't get a hold of Lloyd, so I just closed up shop. I'd rather have, because at the end of the day, the citizen that wants to come to the town office or go to the transfer station isn't gonna
They're gonna come to us.
complain to anybody
Sure.
but us.
Correct.
Oh,
So we need to, you know, not be unreasonable about staying open in bad weather, but we need to take responsibility for it, I think.
Right.
I mean, you could have the police chief or some other
Sure.
Yep.
person do it, but I think ultimately.
In fairness, during the electrical outlet, she called me about something, and I'm at home,
Yeah.
but neither phone.
and we didn't close that day, just,
Right.
that was just me
Right.
not coming in. I just
Yes.
wanted, I wouldn't make that decision on my
Right.
own to close the office.
Right.
Any suggestions that you folks have? You know, you're the employees that are infected.
Well, I
by it.
recall in the past, questions relative to closure going to the board chairman and the chairman calling the other selectman on the phone saying, hey, this is what I'm recommending that we do, and, you know, and if they can't get a hold of you, that's one thing, but, you know, make the attempt to do it. But I do think you're right, that this board should retain that authority. And if there's a question of a department head about closing, then they need to contact the board, contact the chairman.
I don't have a problem revisiting a closure
Right.
as opposed to you trying to get consensus
Yeah.
during a storm. I mean, if the chair decides it's closed day and we come in a week later to a meeting and we disagree with that decision, we can have a conversation about it.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then yeah, so it eliminate all.
What I'll do is I'll get together with you, so each of us have a list of numbers, cell phone numbers, all of that, so.
But we'll edit this as well, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
And then try to figure out the school thing.
You solved a couple of other big ones for us, you can solve that one,
I
I'm
would
sure.
hope so. Friday's a holiday, by the way, so.
This Friday?
Yeah,
Yes.
luckily Diane thought of that.
Oh,
So I don't know if you just wanna put Jim on Monday.
Yeah, we have to,
yeah.
Okay.
yeah. I anticipate Jim to be here more than half an hour, just the,
Oh, yeah.
just the questions
Yeah.
I have.
Okay.
Yes.
Chair, I just wanted to, because this is being videotaped, I just wanted to bring to your attention that the tax rate is preliminary, it's not official yet. I just wanted to put it out there.
Sure.
Yeah, it's only official when DRA
Correct.
approves it, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you for all your work.
Okay.
Is there any other paperwork to do other than the non-public? Anything else from the public? Joe, you're left standing.
I have nothing, nothing at all.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to go into non-public session for RSA 91A3L for consideration of legal advice.
So move.
I'll second.
Wood, yes?
Marcus, yes.
I'll be yes.
Okay.